Who's hosting?
Who's hosting?
That's
me.
Overwatch episode
I'm the
136.
Can I be the host?
Can I?
I'm kidding.
Yeah, can I?
I'm kidding. I got this under control. Okay, I got it under control. We got AVRL on to be our host because, you know, of course, he's hosting Tactical Crouch, and we're like, we don't have a host, so we'll get AVRL to host. No, actually, no. Don't worry, AVRL. You just have to provide the analysis. That's fine. Bren and Sideshow, they're missing this week. Obviously, they got stuff going on with Valorant. I don't know why Kurt is here. Kurt is supposed to be busy too, but Kurt always shows up because he's like elite. Love Kurt. Old reliable. And also we got Jaws and Custa on. So it's gonna be a fun little episode. Do you want to talk about your morning, Custa? You said it was a stressful morning. Are you okay? Do we need to do some clearing off the air before we get into the Overwatch stuff?
It was just, you know, I had to drive somewhere, and then I tried to come back, and then there was fucking traffic because I live in Los Angeles, so it was just fucking awful. And then I needed to, you know, just get all these little things done, but I'm a little late. I take full responsibility. Not as late as Bren though as last week, so I'll take it.
That's an achievement in and of itself. Arrow, what's going on with the time zone? What time is it in New Zealand right now?
I'm not in New Zealand. I'm in Australia. I'm in Scott's homeland.
Okay.
Scott's backyard. Yeah, it's 3 a.m. 3 a.m. for me.
All right.
Yeah, we have all this Australian talent on the Overwatch League, and I'm the only one that actually lives in this country. It's funny.
Because it's 3 a.m. there. That's why.
I think I'm the most Australian one. I actually live here. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, honestly true. I'm losing them. I talk to my mum. Every time I talk to my mum, she's like, you need to come home. You're losing your accent every day. I'm like, yeah, probably.
Losing your accent. I can't even speak Swedish anymore. I spoke with my father this morning, and I like stumbled on words and stuff. So it's an embarrassment. I think I'll just stay out of Sweden because I'm so embarrassed at this point. I'm not really Swedish anymore. But that's all good. Yeah, Jaws is on the show too, but I'm not going to ask him a question. I'll just get into the Overwatch stuff.
That's good.
Good stuff with it.
like that.
Good stuff with Overwatch 2 this past week. We obviously got access to the beta once more after like a month or two of hiatus, not being able to play the game. So that's always cool. Obviously, a bunch of changes. So we're going to talk about Junker Queen, first of all, but I'll put that on hold there just for a little bit, okay? We'll do that a little bit later. There were tons of other changes, though, in the patch notes. For example, Symmetra underwent a lot of different changes, and they also made some comments about that. Orisa, Doomfist. I just want to get a general feel in the room so far. So I guess you can kick this off, Jaws, if you like. What's your general feel about the Overwatch 2 beta with all the changes coming through?
It definitely feels better than beta 1.
Yeah.
Was it beta 1 last? Okay, yeah. It definitely feels better than beta 1.
That's from 1 to 2 normally.
Okay, yeah, that's good. I don't know if there's a 0.5 in there or something. I don't know. You know how patches work. But it feels better. I think DPS in general, getting the big change of removing the speed passive was really nice. I know a lot of people are complaining and whining, but like, look, you got it for one beta and now you don't. Like, suck it up. It's way better for the game as a whole. Normally, movement and speed and stuff like that is so hard to balance, and having Soldier and like all the DPS just run down supports and there's not much you can do about it. It does feel pretty good, and just a run around tanks as well in general feels pretty nice. I think the game, and as well as the new map Rio, which I'm sure we'll discuss as well, but it feels a lot better than it did in beta 2 and a lot more refined. They're like, the amount of bugs that they fixed is kind of insane.
Yeah, I don't know if we'll be able to go through them one by one. Is there any like major bug that like stood out to you that they fixed? There's like 20 of them.
Dude, like yeah, sure. Like just in general, like a lot of the weird collision that I found when I was playing Doomfist on beta 1. I don't know if anybody else found this, but when I was like punching people, I felt like I was way more likely to just have someone slide off a fucking surface and just zip into the stratosphere and or return to their backline where they belong. You know what I mean? It didn't really feel rewarding as Doomfist, but now it feels really nice to play Doomfist as a character again. And I think just the general polish and sheen of the game is a lot better too. But mainly the collision thing for me was kind of annoying.
Yeah, I kind of want to hit on the negatives real quick. I don't like the movement speed passive, but I also don't like the ultimate charge passive. I think it's a step in the right direction. I think one of the big issues that you really walk into, and I can't remember who tweeted this, but I didn't really think about it until now. Like, it's nice to be able to change, and it incentivizes you to change, but it's also like you only get the benefit of changing and getting that passive ult charge when what you're doing is currently not working for the most part, right? So it's like
SVB.
Yeah,
who tweeted that.
SVB, yeah, he made that tweet. And it's like, it's a good point of like, you're only really getting that value when you've already conceded defeat when you make that change. So I can't really speak to it too much. Obviously, this quick play beta gameplay doesn't really incentivize this good hero switching. I've really just been one-tricking Junker Queen or like playing supports, so it doesn't really feel like I've gotten it. The other one that I think is a massive miss, and this is no surprise, is the Mercy one. That it just feels absolutely awful to use.
Have you seen the clips of the Mercy movement tech now? Like, you
that's a bug.
You can just go
stupid.
fucking crazy. It's unbelievable shit.
But regardless of that rubber banding bug, like the idea that it will force you to go up when you get close to them, it needs to be another button. It should have been what it was in the first iteration of the beta. They should just go back to whatever that was. But what they're doing right now definitely isn't working. And the devs are aware of that. They've said that they're going to be changing it in the future, but that was a big miss.
Yeah, I agree, generally speaking. Like, everything that Scott just said, I mirror. There's things I like about the new beta, but since we're on the topic of the new passive, right? Am I crazy? I'm like the only one in the world who maybe like the DPS passive. I don't know. Call me DPS biased.
No,
I guess
like
10%. Yeah, the 10%.
I haven't tried it too much because I just use support all the fucking time. But
here's the thing: is like,
you like the speed up, but it made everybody else's life like a living hell. Like,
but it's balanceable. But it's balanceable because you talk about Soldier running it down, but it's like,
how is it balanceable?
Because
how is a movement speed passive among every DPS hero balanceable without
Jack? Because you can reduce the sprint speed on Soldier for one. That's one way to do it.
That doesn't stop every other hero being unbelievably quick compared to everybody else.
Well, I think some heroes like really kind of need it because Echo feels way better with it. For example, that's probably the main one people bring up. So like maybe every DPS hero having the 10% was a bit much.
Maybe the flying heroes.
Some of them really do need it. Like some of them I think like feel significantly worse without it. But then again, we look at the new passive when I think this is I tweeted this out as well when I first saw the passive. Was like, well, what are the use cases that I see at the very high level, at a competitive level? Teams can use it to go on opening DPS scouting missions, do some wacky stuff on Widow, Hanzo, Sombra, etc., and then go back to spawn and still keep your ult charge rate. But for the casual player, this is like something that makes no difference to them. So in terms of Scott saying, like, this is a passive that only kicks in when you're losing or something's wrong. I mean, depending on the type of player you are in, like just a normal player out there, little Timmy out there, who's one-tricking hero. If you're just one-tricking hero, you're literally you don't have a passive. You just do not have a passive. Right. Yeah. So I don't like the idea of this passive existing. That's not really a passive at the end of the day, if it makes sense.
Yeah. At the same time, I hear what you guys are saying, but I also feel like damage is already in an incredibly influential spot where like the damage roll in general is going to carry you to a lot of wins in games, and similarly like weigh you down if you don't have good damage players. So I don't really feel like a desperate need for a passive, if anything, something like this to alleviate, perhaps if you're struggling as a damage player to like get your team on track. That's a nice quality of life change to me. I feel like the regeneration, if you're a support player, like great, awesome quality of life change, feels better to play support, etc. I think the tank one in general, just like the knockback reduction, right? Am I right in that?
Yeah, it is.
And so I feel like those are like two great quality of life changes for tank players and for support players. But if I'm a damage player, like I'm not sitting here just like, oh, it's unfair. It's unfair that damage players don't have a great passive for them. I'm just kind of like, well, your role is already like pretty good. You have some great heroes. You have so many different heroes you can play. So I don't really feel like
your passive is you have more heroes to play.
Well, I don't feel like double obligated to like give these guys a passive. I'm like, no, your role is already so much fun. It's versatile. It's great. Like, why do we have to give damage players like an influential passive?
I
don't really buy that.
It's more of from a design standpoint, the way I think about it is it's more of like a unification of like all the roles. Like everybody gets a little something. Maybe that something is insane, like the speed boost, or there's like is pretty good quality of life change, like the healing. But for them not to give DPS a passive, or at least a little small something like with the ult charge change now, I think would be like the devs almost admitting, support DPS is just OP. Like we can't just give anything more to this role because it's too strong. So I think just having across the board, having a passive for every single role is a good thing. And the DPS one, I am actually it does feel pretty good when I have, I don't know, maybe close to like a blade, but then they switch to Brig and all that kind of stuff, and I switch to something else, and I have a little bit of ult charge. Like, it does feel pretty nice. Does it feel good to the casual player? Probably not, but I don't think it really actually needs to for it to really be anything insane. Yeah, I think the casual player is also probably not going to notice a lot of the changes for the passives anyway. Like, yeah, the healing is great, but you're also just running it fucking down anyway. So like,
Hey guys, I got a bug. I got 30% ult charge. What's going on here?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I'd like to talk a bit more about, obviously, the balance within the game. We mentioned Mercy already. And I think it deserves to be mentioned that Jody, community manager of Overwatch, released a bit of a blog post saying that they were looking into the Mercy changes because they heard everyone loud and clear. They understood that Mercy right now is like in a pretty bad spot. But at the end of the day, it's a beta, and they were like, hey, we wanted to test this out, see how it went. Obviously, it was a bit of a failed experiment. So they're going to look into changes for that. They also talked about Symmetra's teleporter range has not been reduced as stated in the initial patch notes. So it says it's different, but it's actually not. So here you go. It's a small little update. And they said they were planning for a larger update on this Thursday. I think they do them every Thursday, every Friday, something like that. And they will talk a bit more about how this beta has gone and some upcoming changes. But yeah, just some quick updates when it relates to Symmetra, Mercy, and also here they say that there will be a mid-cycle patch including changes to Mercy and Moira. So here we go. But there's tons of other changes that we need to talk about. I want to start off with the tanks because I feel like the tanks underwent a lot of changes in the patch notes. Reinhardt and Winston got relatively small changes when it comes to like armor health, primal rage, ultimate cost, barrier protector. Not really too interesting. Diva also got some upgrades when it comes to the armor, which is going to make her sustain a bit more. But Orisa and Doomfist seems to be the two heroes that have changed the most. So what do we think about these changes? I think we'll start out saying that Doomfist right now is very weak.
Oh, man.
Orisa, on the other hand, I've seen Scott. I've played in-houses against Custa, where he just like straight up dominates on this hero. Crazy. It seems very silly. What's going on here?
I agree. I think Doomfist, like the nerfs feel very heavy-handed. Like, I don't know, maybe their numbers were there to support that Doomfist was too strong. I didn't feel that. Like, we've been seeing it a lot in the Overwatch League, but it didn't ever feel overpowered. And I think this 90% to 80% nerf on his power block is going to hurt a lot. Like, because all of a sudden he becomes that much more susceptible while standing still with his power block up. So I don't really like that. But Orisa feels way more fun. I think they did a great job of making her
fun or broken.
Why can't they be both? You know, if it feels a little overtuned, it's hard to really know. Once again, in the competitive aspect of they made her gun good, right? Her gun feels way better. It doesn't feel like you're shooting tennis balls at people anymore. It actually feels like it has an impact. My big fear for Orisa is that she's going to have the same issue that she had, you know, when you took away her shield, is that with Fortify not having headshot immunity, she actually still feels like sometimes she just falls over. If you end up in the middle of the open, you use your javelin spin and then you get caught in the open, your Fortify might not save you through that. And that's what it felt like. It felt like if they had good DPS or they had a good team who knew how to focus fire, I still just fell over. But the hero's still fun. The javelin's still great to throw. Does a lot more damage. You can use your javelin spin a lot more, which allows you to be a lot more defensible and aggressive. But I don't know if it's going to be competitively viable. Is this still better than Rush on Reinhardt? I don't think so, especially with Junker Queen being in the mix as well.
Terrace are just kind of crazy. Sorry, Level. Yeah, I was going to say the games I've played, again, like Scott said, I'm probably playing against gold players and like GM players and top 500 players, and like it's a mixed bag. But when I've seen Orisa's use ult now, I'm like, holy fuck,
it feels
that
good.
Shit goes crazy. It feels super good. It feels very rewarding getting that ult off and like getting kills with it. I've seen way more kills in this beta, and I've only played like a few days compared to Alpha and the beta one. Then I've seen more kills on Orisa's ult than I've seen across both Alpha and beta one.
My worry is like, okay, they've bumped up Orisa's numbers, but her identity is still just whack. Like, I think I talked about this another time I was actually on Plat when we were talking about like, you know, Orisa and stuff. And it's just, she to me still just doesn't have a defined identity. Like, is she meant to be more of a brawly hero? But then like, why would you play over Ryan, etc. Right? Those kind of questions still to me aren't necessarily answered just yet. I mean, we'll see what happens when, I don't know. I'd be interested in seeing what the pros think of her and how if they think she could be viable. I'm personally not happy about what they did to Doomfist. I play a lot of Doomfist myself. I talked to Quaked on. He's obviously pissed about it. And am I wrong in thinking that Power Block already was pretty much like the weakest tank mitigation ability?
Yeah,
like
no,
you would 100% rather have Fortified Javelin Spin, Ryan's Shield, Zarya Bubble, anything over Power Block, which is so unbelievable. And this was before the nerf. It was already really, really bad. And now it's even worse. I'm actually dying through Power Block now when it like the 10% actually makes a huge difference. Crazy enough.
Hear me out. How would you feel if they heavily changed the movement speed reduction? So like, let's say they removed it down to like 30%, so that like it's more of like less of like a standing there and power blocking and more like a moving and blocking and like trying to absorb some damage.
That would be better. Can I propose something that this sounds to people that don't like Doomfist, you're gonna hate this, but I wouldn't mind Power Block. I would even shift like this, like make it a 70% reduction, but it blocks all CC.
Oh,
crazy? Is that crazy? That's what I want.
Kind of insane.
I think it's really ridiculous that like you can just eat a sleep dart during Power Block when every other tank doesn't give a fuck. No other tank is just like, okay, I'm immune, and Doom's just like just sleeps. Like what? Excuse me? What does that even mean?
I think having an increased movement speed while you're power blocking would. It's not like a CC immunity, but you're still able to kind of maybe juke the Ana just a little bit. That would be the in between.
Yeah,
and
CC immunity's a lot. Like we want to be careful.
Scott, these other tanks have them.
Yeah,
These other tanks have them.
Fucking shit, Avril. That's what.
Yeah, but like also
I'm an player. I need a defense.
Don't have
right?
that mobility.
Like, yeah, like
other tanks don't have the mobility Doomfist has.
That's why when you're power blocking, you're literally standing still, pretty much.
Yeah,
he's got no mobility during the power block.
Yeah, like you just give him some mobility. But if you
some speed, yeah.
Like, what does an Ana do against a Doomfist now? If he can just like literally land in your face, shoot you 2 times, power block all of your stuff, and then you can't shoot him. And then if you do shoot him, then he just punches you into a wall and you die. Like, I think you need to give the supports an attempt, but Doomfist needs something to be able to, as you said, not just eat the sleep for free.
I still think power block is way too weak. It is unbelievably weak as an ability. It is awful. It's nearing the hack zone for me in terms of how bad it is.
Okay, all right.
I'm angry. That's what it's about. I'm angry, and I'm just gonna say shit.
I mean, I can't believe they removed the slow. To be honest,
yeah,
I was going to ask about ridiculous.
That.
Like you need something to like catch up to people as Doomfist. Yeah, you got a lot of mobility, but the slam was like so good at making sure you could land the punches, you could catch up to supports, you can catch up to DPS. I'm so confused. Like I thought they'd nerf the damage range on it more than anything.
The range is crazy.
The range is insane and it does 50 damage. Like I have a random clip from one of the betas or the alpha, I can't remember which one it was, but like this Doomfist slamming like across the map and I'm Tracer running away to a health pack and then the edge gets me and I'm like, I just like fall over like ragdoll. I'm surprised they didn't nerf the damage or made it like a pulse, like it does more damage close up and it does less damage like further away. The slow seems like you can just get away from him. You can just run now as a support. Like it's not a problem at all.
Remember what they said? They were removing CC from the game, but then keep it on tank because that was a part of the identity. And now Doomfist is a tank and he doesn't have CC.
The thing, yeah.
I like that too.
My controversial hot take is that I thought Doomfist was fine. I thought Doomfist was kind of fine. Like
Johnny's spoken like a not a Doomfist player.
Yeah. Spoken like
not with the power block. Fine. But before, like as it is in Overwatch League now, I think Doomfist has a nice niche.
Yeah, like, sure. Yeah.
Teams are playing him, but he's not busted, and you can probably counterplay him. And we got tons of changes.
Why did he get nerfed? He's not busted, right?
Why
did he get nerfed?
He shouldn't have been nerfed. Yeah.
They probably had some quick play statistics or something. Who knows? I don't know.
Yeah. Come on.
Dude, Timmy's too good on Doomfist. We gotta nerf Timmy.
I can actually understand it. Okay, if you're going to nerf like Cassidy from like quick play, I'm like, okay, well, hold on. But if you're nerfing Doomfist, I'm like, I can kind of understand the silver players who are struggling against Doomfist because he's pretty oppressive. And talking about oppressive, actually before that, damage heroes. There were no like major damage changes, so I don't know if anyone has any thoughts on these.
Can I add one thing really quick just about Diva?
About Doomfist? Okay,
no,
Diva.
About
yeah,
Diva.
Sure,
this is very quick, I promise you. They reverted the nerf that she received in Alpha. I don't know like how public all the Alpha patch notes were, but I'll just say this one. This mech armor and mech health, like redistribution of HP and armor, is literally the reverse of the nerf that she copped in Alpha. And in Alpha early on, maybe this is just because teams didn't know what they were doing yet, but everyone was playing Diva. Like she was hardcore Overwatch League scrim meta, and she could just do everything. And then this armor nerf happened and people stopped playing D.Va. But now they've reverted it. I'm curious whether teams might look at it a bit more.
Yeah,
I think a
100
part
armor's
of
a
that was
lot.
because Sojin was also like in hyper steroid mode at the very beginning of the Alpha 2 AVRL, and you could like the headshot hitbox for everything was like super
She's there
crazy. You
again.
could easily
Well,
land
she's there,
shots.
yeah, well, she's there again, and D.Va's there
I
again.
know
so,
she's
mean,
there again, but like that's probably one of the reasons why D.Va was there at the very beginning
Well,
too.
when I
because
talked to
you can
teams
eat
early-
those rails.
You could, but when I talked to teams earlier as well, they just had this idea that D.Va could do everything, like she was the do-it-all hero.
Yeah.
And maybe teams hadn't, obviously didn't scrim enough yet to figure out the different niches. But yeah, D.Va was really strong. I remember very early in Alpha.
I could sorry Johnny. I could absolutely see if these changes go through into Overwatch League, where people are playing Doomfist, people will play D.Va. Especially with Winston not feeling like super strong right now. I could absolutely see that change coming through and like D.Va becoming that dive hero, because as you said, 100 armor is surprisingly a lot, especially when you're playing against like Traces, Sojins, like low
They nerfed
damage
armor though, didn't
tick. They did nerf armor, but
They
it's
didn't
still
have
good.
armor overall, yeah.
Yeah, but it's still good. It
And the
also
Matrix
might be
is
the
still
problem.
insane.
Wasn't D.Va also played in the early alpha as well because of like the way Xayah was working versus armor, and then like
yeah,
she got-
Xayah.
Oh, yeah.
Xayah went like she ignored
Or
armor
beam
or
damage.
something like that.
Beam
Beam
Yes,
damage
yeah.
for some reason was like was it very good against armor? Or was it not very? I'm
was very good
forgetting.
against armor.
It was
That's-
very good because it acted like health. It didn't act like armor.
Oh
There
yeah,
was
that's
no
right. Beam
mitigation.
damage was
Yeah.
not mitigated by armor, right?
Yeah.
Something like
So-
that. Yeah.
Sorry,
Yeah.
Johnny.
No, it's all good. No,
I
it's
don't
all
want to talk
good.
about DPS,
Yeah, I want to talk about DPS. But we got $5 from Joe Peters, by the way. So I'll just read this out real quick. Joe Peters says, the power block nerf is literally doubling the damage Doom takes. It's actually a mega insane nerf that reads reasonable, but really is not. So, Joe Peters, thank you for the $5.
Thanks.
Yes,
Thanks.
yeah.
We're taking live donations now. This is crazy. It's
Hey,
been
man,
like-
hey, man,
We
come
sold
on
out
now.
now, Jack. We
Look,
sold out.
we gotta pay Avril's appearance fee, okay? We gotta pay Avril's appearance fee. We gotta take some donations. I'm kidding.
He asked for 5K a day, by the way. It's crazy. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm actually hoarding
Well,
all
you
the
still
money
got me on.
myself. But yes, so just quickly gloss over DPS. There's no like great changes. I think Bastion can like rocket jump now or something because of the tactical grenade cooldown. Cassidy got a bit of a damage reduced during combat roll, but nothing major here. I think Symmetra
that
is like
roll-
Pulse bomb, by the way.
50% damage
He
reduction. is
looks
kinda huge, isn't it?
okay.
Yeah.
Apparently, huge changes when it comes to damage.
Well,
What do you
it's
think,
not
guys?
massive,
It's just like-
but you can live through pulse bomb if you roll at the right time. You can.
Oh,
Live
that's
through it.
true,
It's like the when you dead eye, you get the damage reduction now. Because I stuck someone once, and I was like, "What the hell? Didn't die? That must be a bug." Like, but no, he gets damage reduction. But
But
you
there's
can
a
actually live
damage
pulse bomb
reduction
if
on
you,
high noon. How much?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I 40-50%. I don't know.
it's up
It's
You can
it's
stand
up
in the
there.
open.
I know for a fucking fact if you pulse bomb a high noon, he doesn't die. I know that for sure. But yeah,
Yeah.
the combat roll, you can roll and it stops pulse bomb killing you now. So it's kind of nutty.
40. I just looked at it. It's 40%.
Johnny's like,
There you go.
Johnny's like, you can go, Johnny. Keep going on. Just
And
get to Symmetra and then we'll talk about her
anything
for a while.
Symmetra. Okay. No, so of course, it says some changes here about like the teleporter. There's some nice quality of change. Like the build time is reduced. Now has a maximum lifetime of 10 seconds. So that's kind of interesting. Cooldown increased from 10 to 16. So lots of changes here. But I kind of want to combine like Symmetra with Orisa and transition into Junker Queen, and just give our thoughts on Junker Queen, because she seems busted to me. The damage values just seem crazy. She's very hard to kill. I'm not going to say that she's like the Overwatch League meta, just like, 4500 SR. She's crazy good. But I found that she's kind of hard to deal with. So the question is Junker Queen overpowered? And then I kind of want to transition into both Orisa being like super oppressive right now with being able to absorb so much damage, fortify, spears, all that stuff. How is Symmetra going to play into these kind of heroes? Because I think we might actually transition into a bit of like, a bit of a brawl kind of like GOAT style, where if we just like buff these characters to like absorb tons of damage, and we have Symmetra just like dealing tons of damage with primary fire, and then Junker Queen on top of that, being able to, kind of like shout and sustain and lower hitbox. I feel like Junker Queen is one of those heroes that doesn't really have a role like some of the characters you just mentioned, Avril. Like, doesn't really have a defined dive role, even though she's a bit of a dive hero. She's not really a
have some
bunker
theories.
hero because she doesn't have a shield. And so I feel like you get a couple of these heroes like Junker Queen, Orisa, and Symmetra that don't really have a defined role, but because their damage values are so good on paper, they kind of become oppressive and they find a way to be in the meta. Have you guys enjoyed playing against Junker Queen? Do you think she's overpowered? Is she perfectly fine? How much are we going to see from her?
I'm going to throw something into the ether right now. This was maybe a hot take. Maybe this one's going to be contentious. I think she's like a better Roadhog. Real shit.
I've heard this take from multiple people. Don't you know? I think the other person I heard it from was Jack, actually. So I feel like we're getting biased on this broadcast. I understand where people are coming from. It's like you're kind of like a solo character who's just sort of running around trying to hit people with your dagger and then fuck them up with your axe, right? Like it's kind of the vibe. I don't see it. Here's my problem with Junker Queen. I think, especially with how strong Zenyatta is right now, and Ana and all that kind of stuff, I think she can be very easily isolated. Very similar to how Orisa plays, of like, she does a lot if you just leave her unchecked. If you just let her go, and that's why she feels very overpowered in the alpha, or sorry, the beta, is if you just let her run around, bleed everyone, keep up the sustain, and your supports give her any healing, she just farms. And the fact that her old hitbox is the size of, I don't know, a really big thing.
Like, it's big.
Small.
Yeah, it's like Ashe.
It's big. It feels tiny.
Yeah.
Oh, you the silhouette and the
her hitbox
is huge.
Her hitbox, I think it's kind of thin. So I think that if she had the hitbox of Roadhog, she'd be useless. Like, we can all agree on that, right? Like, it's about how thin she is right now. Like, she has a pretty big head hitbox, but how thin she is, I think, also helps to her sustainability.
The Mohawk, you shoot the Mohawk, you get the damage.
Yeah, you can't mess with the Mohawk. So I don't know. I don't think she's overpowered. I think people are saying that, but I think in a coordinated effort, I think she's going to have identity issues, exactly like Avril said.
I think that's the main problem right now, is that we are playing a game where it's very varied in skill level. She's definitely a good pump stomper, and I think she's like Roadhog in that sense, where it's a good pump stopper. You jump into some really low SR games and you just go round backline, just keep fucking. To be fair, you can do that in any fucking game, to be honest with you. Like, ranked is just a mess, but you can just hook people from the backline, just insta kill supports, then you just win the team fight from that. But at the same time, any coordinated support like backline, you have Zenyatta on the other team, she just dies instantly. She has no armor. She has shielding wouldn't really matter anyway, but she has no armor. She's just pure HP. Her what I will say though, the one thing I don't like about the kit, and I actually think is overpowered, is the commanding shout. That shit is crazy. 100%. Like, that, I don't know how the fuck how long that's going to stay like that. It definitely shouldn't, because getting an extra 200 HP for yourself, I'm like, okay, she doesn't have armor, she's squishier than like Reinhardt, she doesn't have a shield, mitigation tools, she doesn't really have them, so that kind of makes sense. But giving your supports and your DPS a like miniature sound barrier is ridiculous. Like, I am going in non-nanoblade. I'm like, just commanding shout me, because I'll be fine, because I have 300 HP as a Genji, and you cannot fucking kill that. Well, you can focus it down, but it's way harder to do than when you're against a 200 HP Genji. Same with Tracer. She fucking just dashes to the backline with 250 HP. Ana has to hit a fucking sleep. Zen has to hit a couple of orbs to take that shit down. I think they should keep that ability. For her at least, and then maybe having like a gradual HP over time kind of dealio for your for the other people around you, like rally in a way.
Did Jack just say give her a mini rally?
No, like don't have it 100 HP, have it like 50 or something, like smaller, but like,
well, how about like 100, but it starts going down.
Fucking HP.
Like
I say get rid of the health.
Down like sound barrier.
No, I'm like, get rid of the health. Like, if you get movement speed, I think that's plenty for your team to just be like, oh, it's like a speed boost from Lucio.
I could be down with that. Actually,
and it's a regular ability.
Defensive tools, like her 200 HP, I think that's more than okay, because she's got fuck all else. But like, everybody else that gets 100 HP just randomly out of nowhere, because it's kind of a spammable ability. It's a lowish cooldown, like I think it's 11-12 seconds or something, but it's still like
spammable. Like,
the uptime between fights and like, it's high. You go into the fight commanding shout, and then halfway through the fight, depending on how long the fight is, you're like close to another one. So it's like, boom, you hit another one, the supports don't die. And when Tracer, Genjis, whatever, dive onto the backline with blades or pulse bombs or whatever the fuck, it's fucking stupid.
Yeah, so that's, I just want to continue on the commanding shout aspect of things. That's kind of where I'm coming from, where I'm like, I'm worried that this ability is so powerful and that the health is so important that is going to become like an ability that people straight up like build compositions around. Custa is shaking his head. Do you think the ability is like? Because I'm worried that people will be like, okay, well, we're just going to play Junker Queen, Lucio Moira, and we're just going to boost, give everyone 100 health, and we'll just speed around the map and look for picks. And then maybe Symmetra teleporter. You
can definitely do that.
It'll just be rush. Like, it'll straight up just be rush. Like, people will just run in, press the commanding shout, and run. Like, I highlighted all the issues with Junker Queen. They literally do not matter if she provides this level of health. In my opinion, I don't know how people feel about this, but instead of she should give herself the 200 overshield. But I think she should give healing. I don't think she should give people over health. I think when she presses it, if people are missing health, then she heals up that 100 health.
That's a problem as well.
Yeah,
like,
it becomes
you can't just give healing to tanks. Like, it's just weird, man.
Yeah. But then, like, I just think the 100 over health is just straight up broken right now. I just don't think there's any world in which you can balance it. Like, maybe give 50, but it'll still be strong. Like, and that, as Johnny said, that'll be the only thing people play her for.
Build it up. Let me just have it a slow build.
Let me just drop a take.
12-second rally. Sorry, Rob.
Let me just drop a take on this one. Right now, I think she sucks, and I have more to add on to that. But the one thing that keeps her good is that one ability. To me, Junker Queen, the entire hero is just commanding shout, because I don't think the rest of the hero is good. Here's why. Because, as I was saying earlier, she is just like a better Roadhog. And why that matters is because she has the same weakness as Roadhog. She gets ripped up by heroes like Ana, like, no, without a doubt. She gets fucking farmed. Her range is really low, obviously, and you can like pretty successfully kite her. I think she loses the dive. I think if I was to theory craft like how she'd be playing at a high level, I think she would lose the dive. I think she would lose to all sorts of CC or all sorts of like any way for you to get away from her or to keep her at a distance. Her gap closing is not good at all. Like, yes, you can shout, but everything is tied to one ability now. You have to gap close, mitigate your own damage, and if you want to help your team, there's like 3 different things they're doing. Could you get massive out and do all 3 at the same time and be perfect? Probably. But if you're ever like doing just the one thing, like, oh, I just want to shout to save a teammate, now you've lost your engage. Now you've also lost your own self-healing, and she has no other mitigation. Like, it's basically you have one Zarya bubble for yourself, and that's it.
Well, that's kind of worried about the Symmetra changes as well. Like, if they're reducing the build time of Symmetra teleporter, like 1 second to get a teleporter up is going to be so fast. People are going to like plop out on like those Numbani exits, on point A, Gibraltar, whatever, and just like around the corner, 1 second, we're in the back line. And you get a Junker Queen up there with movement speed, Lucio movement speed.
Who cares about Junker Queen? Shit. Just play Ryan. Why would you play Junker Queen if you can play Ryan in that situation? Like, Ryan's just better in that situation. 100%.
Well, you don't get the sustain for your teammates, and you don't get 1 less movement speed ability. I guess
shield. Like, I think the problem with Junker Queen is she can't, like, the thing that makes Ryan great when you rush is you have that big shield to catch the Anane, to catch a bunch of the damage, to catch all the initial, like, things. Like,
he's just tankier too.
Yeah, the thing that makes Ryan so good is that you have, like, however much health he has on his shield these days, you have that much damage to run someone down. And once you've done it, but Junker Queen doesn't have that, right? It's like someone can still get one-tapped with 300 health, right? Like, they can still die with the Junker Queen. And that's the problem with her, is that, yes, it'll be very good in some situations, but if you're just going to rush, especially with the teleporter, then I don't think it's going to be good with the Junker Queen, because it's too transparent. And yes, it's quick, but it's transparent. And my big problem with Symmetra overall is she just feels awful to play. Her teleporter might be good, but I did not like playing her at all. Other than her teleport.
She's still weak to sim shit. Like, she still has the same weaknesses overall. Most sim players would consider her to be nerfed. I think at a pro level she's buffed because of the TP stuff. But in terms of the spam, the overall damage, no longer regenerating ammo and damaging barriers. To be fair, there's not really any barriers left, but that does make a difference as well. Just all that kind of stuff combined doesn't make her a better hero. And she's still hella weak to dive. Like, she needs the most. If you guys remember 6v6, when you play sim comps, you have to pocket the shit out of the sim. With 1 less tank, it's a lot harder to do. She will just die.
She's just a symptom of Overwatch 1 transitioning to Overwatch 2. Like that, it's just another hero that's, well, maybe not another hero, but she's just bit the dust, because she was super good against shields, right? And super good against double shield, because you can just infinitely charge your beam and you have infinite ammo and you fucking melt shields. But now that doesn't really exist. Like, kind of, I guess. You used to have Rhine to feed off of the Sigma. But, like, now, like, no, you would rather play something that's way quicker, does way more damage up front. You could even play, like, Cassidy. And it's just something that needs to be looked at. I think the whole hero in general just needs to be changed. Maybe they keep the teleporter in somehow. Maybe it's a blink. I don't fucking know. But, like, it's just a hero that is just so old now that they probably just need to do an Orisa style completely make over the hero. And
Dude, the
It's
Overwatch team is
number
so
7.
fucking tired of reworking
How many
Symmetra.
stem reworks is that?
yeah, too many. But like that shows how strange the hero is, and like from release Overwatch 1 to fucking release Overwatch 2 right now. The hero is just doesn't really fit. It fit in niche competitions before. We had the double shield, fucking Sim May bullshit Fortnite comp. But now we're in a position where everything moves a lot quicker. Like there's one less shield to fucking deal with. Like, it's a symptom of old Overwatch, unfortunately.
I think a lot of people who, you know, in this call, but also just like watching, I think we look at Symmetra sometimes, it's just like a throwaway hero. Just like it's a weird, clunky hero. It's like Torbjorn 2.0. But Symmetra,
out of this.
in the casual player base, I think Symmetra is actually one of the most well-liked heroes because of, you know, her personality and who she represents in the game and stuff. I think she's actually one of the most well-liked characters. So I feel like if you're the developer, I can imagine them being like very careful about Symmetra and wanting to make sure that she stays true to who she is as a hero. I don't think
changing the
just,
kit
like,
doesn't change the lore behind the character and the character's like.
No, but you don't want to like mess it up because then you got like fans of this hero just like you ruined our character and we just want to.
I got it. She's been a support. She's been a DPS. Make her a tank. You know, we just got to go run.
Yeah, just full circle.
Keep it up.
Just make her a tank.
All right. Well, on that note, on that note, no. I just want quickly before we abandon Junker Queen, because we talked about the commanding shout. Just quick thoughts like her knife, her ultimate. What do we think? The ultimate. The ultimate is cool.
It's pretty good. It's pretty fun to use.
It takes forever to charge. Is it worth it, or do we need to look at a bit of a reduction on the charge time?
Make it smaller, make it charge faster, make her axe come out faster. Like her axe feels like you're like, oh
yeah, it's like you're playing Rust.
Can I say it's balanced though? Because that axe does hella big damage. Like,
but nerf the damage and just make it more spammable and stuff like that.
Spammable, you're fucking cleaving.
Yeah, well that's cool.
That's what like if her dagger, like imagine how she would play if she was less like super fast bruiser, super heavy hit bruiser, and more fast daggers. Like imagine if you could throw a dagger, pull axe, and then like that's your combo. But it doesn't kill someone instantly. It's about like you're a sustain hero. Then you have more bleed to yourself. You can stay alive because right now it feels like if you don't chop someone in half, you just fall over. So
I think I see the position from Team 4 though. They want the axe to swing to be like this really huge, heavy, impactful thing, and they don't want it just be some spammable like weak thing. They want it to feel massive. So that's why it's got a long wind up, but the payoff is really big. Because otherwise, like I don't know, I could see it from the perspective of just feeling underwhelming.
Like it just feels like
I
feel like I'm just corner peeking
very
people.
well.
I'm just standing at the corner, like see someone, I'm like, okay, charge, and then I like slowly turn the corner and then hope they came close enough. Like
I don't know why. I love that. I love doing that though.
there is definitely a small change you could do with that to make it a little bit more fluid though, because at the moment when you drag someone back with a knife, you can't channel your axe.
Yeah, that's my problem.
You should just be able to throw a knife and then stick somebody, recall it, and then you're channeling while that knife is coming back, and then you smack them. Because at the moment, you fucking pull them back, and then you're like, and then they just walk away, and then you miss. It just feels really shit. But if you just remove that, I think the theory would feel a lot more fluid in like the combos that you're talking about.
I love getting knifed in and then just sliding out of Sojourn and laughing.
Yeah. You're just like, well, I just run away now. It's like Tracer. You just blink away. It feels good, you know.
I think if they could get to a point in which the dagger shotgun axe was a one shot, that would be fine because there's so many shots.
One shots, Custa. Come on.
No, 200 HP. Like think about that. Like that's like it kind of does that already. But like if you hit the dagger and the shotgun and the axe, then someone should die. If they don't die from that, that's bad balance because there's a ton of shots in there that like are important and they're hard to do. It's not like Roadhog where if you hit the hook, someone dies, right? Like that's one skill shot you have to hit really. I think if you can create that like cool idea of a combo, I think it'd be good.
Like a hook, it's like hog hook with more steps.
Yeah, with more steps.
It's still a one shot. I just don't know how I feel about one shots on tanks, man. I'll be real with you.
Well, they made one. Like otherwise, she's useless. If she can't kill a 200 HP target, if she hits him with the knife and gets him in her face, she's a useless
Let her do
character.
199.
Yeah, with a little bit of bleed.
Yeah, she's a little bit cooler. Yeah, we got a couple of more donations, and one of them was small thing about Doomfist again. So thank you for those $10. Unfortunately, the message faded, and we also got $5 from Justin. He says, "I will pay money for Sim Tank with the OG Ultimate," and I just read that and I mauled it. I forgot about what you guys said. I just like completely ignored it. So we're just gonna move on. I'm tired of talking about Symmetra Tank, the prospect of that, and especially like the old Ultimate with the armor for tracers, double tracer, double send. Diving me in Overwatch 2015. Oh my god, nightmares, PTSD. Let's move on. We're gonna talk about Juked. Of course, they've been supporting this podcast for quite some time now. We love the people over at Juked. This is quite ironic for me actually, because I'm hosting, so I'm promoting them. But also, I worked with Fishsticks, who is behind Juked, on the esports subreddit, like way before I even got involved in esports, like full time anyway. So we tried to make, create a place where you could like hang out, discuss esports in general, stuff like that. And then Fishsticks was like, well, no one wants to visit the esports subreddit. We couldn't figure out why. We really tried to make an effort. So he created Juked. It's a new social media platform that provides hardcore and casual fans alike a place to follow, discuss, connect with like-minded fans in a toxic-free environment, thanks to their strict anti-toxicity stance. So this is a social media platform. So it's not just like, what are the upcoming matches? What's the teams doing? What are the standings like? This is a social media platform. Like it's you can discuss, hang out with new fans, talk about your favorite teams together, what you think is going to happen, and it's just like an awesome app. Juked has tons of utility, including an aggregated news feed curated based on your interests. You can like select your different games. Like I want to follow Overwatch, I want to follow Valorant. It has the in-depth calendar to keep up with all the upcoming live and recent matches and scores. So you get that, but you also get to hang out and discuss with other fans on the platform. There's spoiler mode in case you're worried about getting spoiled. For example, the Overwatch League, if you want to watch the APAC matches. You get push notifications for the biggest news and matches. You can keep track of all the different genres, live streams, and much more. So if you want a place to stay up to date with and engage around and all your favorite Valorant news, Overwatch news, teams matches, then you can go to jkd.gg/Plat chat. And that's capital P, capital C as well. You can download and earn an exclusive Plat chat badge while you can. And if you want to find Plat chat, we're Plat chat podcast on juke.gg. So we're going to do a bit of an AMA. We're taking some questions from the fans on this platform. I'd recommend everyone to go check out the app, try it out, download it, connect with some fans. It's really helpful. I know you Jaws, for example, you're a fan of this app as well, keeping track of all your games.
I do the same. Yeah,
General esports is a very nice category, I will say. Just keeping up with everything around the globe. Feels good, man.
It means I don't have to go to Reddit anymore. So if you don't like Reddit and you don't like having to scroll through Reddit, it gives you push notifications of all the games you care about, and you just get updates about things of like team signings, team movement, all that kind of stuff. They write great articles, so would recommend as well.
And they're adding more games too, which is nice because I keep up with Apex a ton, and I was like, yo, Fish, add fucking Apex, have Apex. So like, I'm glad they're adding like more esports as they go, because I know Rocket League is huge on there as well. Rocket League's a massive esport, but like
they had a massive event the other weekend, I think.
Yeah.
I think they were in Europe somewhere. They might have been in Sweden.
It's
actually,
in London.
It's
in London.
In London? Okay. Well,
yeah.
I make
my roommate is Yummy Cheese Man. He's there casting it.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yo, what's up?
That's really cool. So there you go. You can keep up with the Rocket League LAN events and Valorant and Overwatch at the same time on juke.gg. So we took a couple of questions from the fans, and I went through all these questions prior to the podcast. I don't know who actually put this picture up, but you don't have to show it, Kurt. Jesus Christ. It's essentially just people asking about their favorite teams, because they're just like, what's going on with this team? What's good, what's bad, etc. So this will kind of like tie into the recap a little bit. But we got a couple of questions to this AMA post, and I'm sure we'll do more in the future. So check out the Juke app. And maybe you can submit your questions in the future for future episodes as well. Maybe about Valorant questions as well. But the first question comes from Retro, who asked, "Dear Platinum Chatters, the enigmatic nature of the NYXL has caused unsafe hopium to doomium transitions over and over again. They should be good. They have the tools, at least it appears that way, but alas, they've had sparks of greatness, most recently against Dallas. What are some reasonable short-term goals for this squad? Is there something that could turn this season into anything but utter disappointment?" Oh, tough one.
Baby, let's go.
Well, they looked better against Dallas, but The big problem with New York Excelsior, it feels like, is that they have zero flexibility. Their players have unique heroes that they're all very good at, but if the meta shifts away from them, like it did in the kickoff clash, where it felt like they weren't able to play the things that they're good at, and they don't have a main support or another tank or a third DPS that they can use to flex onto. When they play their heroes, like Yaki on Genji, Gangnam Jin on Zen, looks good. But I can't save you from the Doomium. I'm worried about New York Excelsior. I don't think they'll get more than like 5 wins in this season.
Fuck yeah, now
Whole season.
like who are their next matches up? They've got Houston and Boston by the looks of it.
What are they?
Yeah, they
1
probably
and
lose
11
both those.
now. 1 and 10.
Yeah, they could win both of those.
They're
1-8.
1-10,
They're 1-8.
1-8. Really?
Yeah.
Oh, 1-9. Okay, I've got it up
1-9.
here.
Yeah.
1-9.
So-
Yeah, there's
Yeah, go
no
on.
shot they win against Houston. There's no shot they win against Boston. Boston have actually looked.
No shot against Boston?
They can beat Boston. If
No,
they play like they
dude,
did,
there's
if they
no
play like they
fucking
did
way.
against Dallas, like they look good.
They look
If
pretty
they
good.
one trick the Zen, if they actually have Gangnam Jin on Zen, yeah, sure, they actually just dominate. But they probably won't, and they'll probably play some weird shit, and then they'll lose. Like that.
That
what
was
they've
one of
been
the
doing-
funniest,
Yeah.
smaller plot lines as well. Was just like Gangnam Jin's been on Lucio the entire season and comes out on Sen and just like
And then
deadlifts his team on
dominates.
Oasis.
Yeah,
That
it's
was hilarious.
ridiculous, man.
I love that. But, you know, they got a third flex support coming in, so maybe he'll never play that hero again. Love to see that. Great job. Great job, guys. Before we move on, I actually kind of liked what I saw from New York. I think they played at a pretty high level as a team together against Dallas. So, you know, hopefully they can get a win or so. Talking about Boston, we got a question from Tuned Out. It says, hey, Plat chat, die-hard Boston fan here. Oh, God, I'm already worried about Victoria comments. With the recent loss to Florida Mayhem, Boston are officially out of the running for the midseason madness. It's because of like the league points tiebreaker, stuff like that. However, it seems they are improving every week. Do you see a world in which Boston can sneak into a tourney next stage, or is my copium just off the charts? So we got to treat this comment with care. We could just like destroy all his hopes and dreams, and maybe he'll like, you know, go to a slumber into next season. But are we becoming the drug dealers? Are we going to tell him there's lots of hopium for the Boston Uprising? What do
Well,
we
they had
think,
a
guys?
hard
Should we
schedule.
lie to this person? You know, I think that's a reason.
I'm down to lie. Yeah, they're a professional
Let's do some lying.
organization.
Let's do some lying.
Well, that's not true.
Yeah.
That's true, Costa. That's not a lie.
What? Hey,
They
they
had a
did
tough
just
schedule.
lose the
It's
professional. They
Dude.
just lost their professional esports. What was his actual title? What's
General
that?
President of Gaming.
President of Gaming. They just lost the
Yeah.
president of gaming. Are they still professional, Johnny? That's the question.
I've known Mineral for a long time. I spent times with him and the team, and he is very professional.
Okay.
So I would say, you know, on a relative basis, maybe this team is even more professional now. With Huck no longer in the team. I don't know if we ever discussed that news, but at the same time, I'm like, are we going to have a 10-minute segment where we discuss Huck and his like as president of gaming? Maybe we can talk about his influence and his style or whatever, but I don't really think we'll do that on the podcast. AVRL, what do you think about Boston Uprising?
They could maybe go 3-3 in the Summer Showdown, just looking at their schedule, but it's looking pretty rough as well. Depends on whether you think they can beat London or not, because they still have like Shock and other good teams as well in there. So I think they're improving though. Looking over Boston recently, they're really improving. So I'm liking their trajectory. Just I don't know if it's enough yet. So I'm still on the fence on that one, but I think the hopium is there for sure.
They have had one of the hardest schedules ever. I'm looking at it now as well for the Summer Showdown, but they also they had a close game versus the Atlanta Reign to kick off Midseason Madness, 3-2. They lost to Shock, who's really surprised. They beat Paris, who's really surprised. And then the close game against Florida Mayhem. But then they also have, who do they have first? Absolute embarrassment. But that's just unfortunate. But what more can you expect from the league that's C9s every 2 fucking seconds? Like, let's be fucking real ourselves. So it's been a bit clowny the last couple of weeks. But they have London. I'm not sure. Like, London are just super good right now. But then they also have Shock again. And then they have fucking Dallas. Like, this team just can't catch a break with schedule-wise at all. It feels really bad.
Everyone plays everyone twice, Jack. You can't just say they have a bad schedule throughout the entire year.
No.
They're eventually going to get a good schedule where
though.
they start popping off. But all I'm saying is that apparently they've just got all the hardest teams first. I have a lot more faith in this team than I think the layman has, I suppose. But I've personally, maybe I'm sniffing the hopium, but it's the schedule. It's just really kind of sucked from them, honestly. But they had a close game against the Reign, and that's a little bit of like, wow, this is not something we expected, especially in a meta where Sojin is OP and then fucking Kai's like clicking heads.
Yeah,
Scott, schedule is not balanced. You do play every team twice, but if you look at Vancouver's Summer Showdown schedule, you know that shit ain't balanced.
Well, okay, but I'm looking at Boston's, and I don't think Boston has a double up. I'm looking at their schedule. I'm pretty sure that they actually have a balanced season. There are some teams that got screwed where, like, as you said, Vancouver, they should absolutely have a better back half than they did a front half. But I'm pretty sure what I'm looking at here is that they have a pretty balanced one. The problem for Boston is probably going to be their easiest schedule is in the last 6 weeks. In the last 6 matches, which is the last tournament. But the way that the tournament is structured, I'm not sure if it is going to be like that again for the 4th tournament, where it is cumulative of the 3rd tournament.
There's no tournament.
Okay.
It's just straight. It just goes to playoffs.
Yeah. Well, good luck, Boston. I'm rooting for some wins.
Format is a bit weird, champ. It's not as straightforward as it's been the last couple of years. So we'll see it when we get there. I think teams like Vancouver Titans as well, with a pretty easy schedule, relatively speaking,
Toronto,
down the road.
Paris, New York, Vancouver, and then Washington, and then Houston. They can win. Vancouver Titans, they're finding their next win in Summer Showdown.
We'll discuss the Vancouver Titans a bit later in the show. I wanted to take one more question. There were a couple of people who asked a bit like broader, fun questions. Like Thanatos asked if there was an APAC versus an All-Star game, which players would you pick? I think we'll get there. And similarly, at Elizabeth asked any hot takes or predictions who will win Alarms Rookie of the Year, MVP, Coach of the Year. I think we'll get to those awards like after the mid-season madness and do like a halftime check-in for the season. So I think we'll get to those questions. But then there were a few questions, and I figured we'd address it just right now. And then just move on with it because it's been one of the bigger topics coming from the weekend. Custa. It's the coach question. It's the coach question. Obviously, London Spitfire and Washington Justice was a big topic this past week because London Spitfire, people are saying, well, their players are not as good, but they got great strategies, they got great team play. And so obviously they're playing up to their level, when it comes to their players. Whereas Washington Justice can't put it together, subbing in 3 new players, playing Brawl against the London Spitfire in map 5, subbing out Decay, stuff like that. So we got plenty of questions from, Prodigy asked about the coaches, Brent's chair, lots of other people asked about this. So let's just do quick 5-minute segments here on like coaches and Washington Justice and London Spitfire. I guess we'll start with the Washington Justice just quickly. How do we defend this decision of them subbing in 3 players against London Spitfire in map 5? Can we defend them going mirror brawl?
I go on.
Okay.
So the general manager did a stream recently. We actually talked over it because obviously when you're going to do a stream right after a loss like that, people are going to ask questions. So he's not the head coach, Supreme is, but he came out with his people should see it. So if you want the long answer, I'll try my best to paraphrase in a way where I'm not misleading anyone. But essentially, like, their read on the meta for a map like Lijiang is that it is a rush map, and this is in their words. And so they felt like keeping Kalios in wouldn't make sense when his 2 heroes would be like Ryan and Sigma. You could argue that not Ryan and Sigma, it would be Doom and Sigma. You could argue the Doom would work, but we've had questions about Kalios Doom in the past. I think his Sigma's his best hero, right? So they get rid of Kalios. They don't want to play the Sigma to Lijiang. I think that makes sense. They get Mag in so that you can either play the dive options or the rush options. And they truly just felt like rush was the meta. So they ended up choosing rush as their response to London, which seems like it shouldn't be the right call, but that's the call they made.
All right, let me counter that point because, okay, so yes, theoretically, rush is the best composition on Lijiang. I accept that. What is their % chance of winning rush against London? Probably pretty low. If you think, what do you think they have a better chance of doing? Playing something else that might catch London off guard, or trying to beat London in a composition in which they know the ins and outs of? And I think that is my point of like coaching is a great coach recognizes when you have success, what is going to lead your players to the best form of success. Mag was put a deer in headlights. Mag was never going to he was never going to match up to Hardy, and he got dominated. And I think he's not putting his players in the best position, especially when you have a player like Decay. Decay was on it, right? That New Queen Street, Decay literally put Landon in the ground. If they had just played Tracer and been like, Decay, keep running at Landon, they could have won Lijiang. Like, it could have happened. And I think...
They subbed Assassin in to play the May specifically. Like, you could tell like that was part of the reasoning for that as well, which is why they got rid of Decay. So like they were hard locked into the other thing. We thought
we had like a minute of meltdown in the studio room because we were like, are they gonna play Tracer Sombra? And we just melted like our brains.
Yeah, I don't know.
But it was May, yeah.
No, they truly felt, from a coaching perspective, they truly felt like the rush was the meta and they wanted to play that. But I think you're right as well, Scott. Like you got to play the percentages. But maybe in their scrims they saw a little bit glimmer of light in the rush. Maybe they felt like Mag's Ryan was good. It's really hard to tell. Like if I'm gonna make some,
they did also play some rush last year. It did a little bit.
All right, here's my point. Before I'm not going to say anything more about this situation. I couldn't say this on broadcast. Supreme's had a year and a half to make this roster work. He hasn't made it work. Find someone who will. Get rid of Supreme at this point. Like, it's just the truth. Like, I don't like asking for people to go, but it's just been too long. They have too good of players. The talent is there, as Mitch loves to say.
So Scott, that is actually, I want to step in there because this is actually like a bit of a moral issue I've had to deal with myself, being on the desk. I felt like I'm really happy that you went on that that rant, Custa, because it was also like something that I wanted to get off my chest. But I'm really happy you did it the way you did it. I think you laid it out perfectly. So it was great analysis and great comments by you. I felt like, I've ranted so much about Washington Justice that at this point I feel like I'm punching downwards almost, like with how much I've, cared about Washington Justice and their success and stuff like that. So it's been a bit of a moral conundrum. It's like, can you ask for someone to get fired? I did my rant about Vancouver Titans. Essentially where I landed is just like, the reason I'm invested in the Washington Justice is because I do think that they have potential. Like I look at what the K is doing and I'm just like, this guy is a star player. He should be competing with like the better teams in the league. And so I don't think, we're not doing anything like personally against Supreme. We don't have anything against Supreme personally or any other coach for that matter. I think when we sometimes discuss coaches and, even players, like should certain players be part of teams? Part of that is also like we're trying to argue for the sake of the players and like their success. So it's not just like as simple as looking at the coach and isolating him like good or bad. It's also like you have to weigh in the other players who are, in this environment and who are, this is their career and their future in the league and their future playing career is going to be heavily impacted by their circumstances, their environment. So it's not so much about like isolating coaches per se. This ties into so many different parts of a team and into so many different like destinies ahead. And so I think we all just want to see Washington Justice fulfill their potential and succeed. And I think that's why we have to have these difficult conversations sometimes. It's not that we have ill will towards anyone or that we feel bad about someone specific. So I just wanted to make that very clear that we care about the players too.
It's top end competition. Like we give almost too much rope to a lot of people of like giving them.
We do actually. Yeah, we're very nice.
We're very nice. If you look at traditional sports and like how quickly someone can get fired from a job that they worked 20 years for, like it happens all the time. We've given this Washington Justice and Supreme a lot of runway. Like he's had a lot of time to turn it around. We've never even talked about him, but at some point, just like we did with the Vancouver Titans, we know it's not the players at this point. You need to look elsewhere. And that's sort of what I'm saying. As Johnny said, I've never talked to Supreme. I can just see and analyze the coaching decisions that are being made. And this was one of the worst ones he's made. They're not qualified for the midseason tournament anymore. If they want to turn their season around, something needs to change. And I just care about the Washington Justice team. I just want to see them do well because they are a great team.
Yeah. Josh, any comments to that? I think we put that pretty nicely.
Pretty much everything. I don't think you need to go. Yeah, I mean, I don't think you need to defend yourself and like criticizing a fucking coach that has been there for a year and whatever now. Like,
well, people forget sometimes. So it's about the players too.
Yeah, definitely. I understand that, but like, if people,
fans.
Yeah, definitely. But like, bruh.
Yeah.
If you can't criticize the team that you want to do well and the team that you like, then I don't think you're really that much of a fan, to be honest with you. Normally, you end up hating something that you love. Like the reason why a lot of people, I guess streamers, most of the time, because obviously big stream audience and shit, they're like, oh, this sucks about Overwatch, this sucks. It's like, actually, it's coming from a place of love and like wanting to be better and wanting things to be better in the game or like on the team and whatever. Like, yeah, like, I get why you went on the rant, Johnny, but like sometimes it's like, do people really need to fucking hear that? But I guess they fucking do. Like, nothing's ever personal. Like, yeah, definitely. But like, nothing's ever fucking personal. Like, I want this team to be good. I want the league to be better, etc.
I'd love to have like a meta conversation. This is for a completely different time.
That is a very meta conversation. Yeah,
conversation about like we work in a very different environment from traditional sports, and that traditional sports is way more sheltered from fans and criticism and stuff like that, whereas we're very like integrated doing, at juked.gg AMA. You can submit your questions on juked.gg. Go to the link jkd.gg/Plat chat, and maybe we'll answer more questions in the future too. So there you go. Check out that app, download it, and we'll move on towards the show. So we're going to dive into the regions a bit more specifically. And we're actually going to talk about, qualification for the mid-season madness. So all teams essentially like qualified already. When I wrote this rundown, when I wrote the script on Sunday, things were still in the air, but, NA kind of sorted itself out. The 8 teams are set in stone. We can still have seeding to play for. It's only APAC that is yet to be finalized, where there's 2 teams. There's Chengdu Hunters and the Philadelphia Fusion are competing for that 4th and final spot. So the question is, how should Chengdu prepare for week 9? And the context here is that Chengdu are playing Shanghai Dragons and the Hangzhou Spark as their last 2 matches. They're currently 1 point behind the Philadelphia Fusion. And I think the way it works is because Philadelphia Fusion got league points from the kickoff clash, that serves as their tiebreaker. So essentially, the Chengdu Hunters need to have 1 more point than the Philadelphia
just because
Fusion.
they did well in the kickoff clash, they just win the default tiebreaker?
I'm not completely sure. Is that not how it works? Someone probably brought on Reddit or something. Because that's how the Boston thing worked, right? Like Boston is out, even though they could have the same wins.
It's cumulative league points earned, match win percentage, overall regular season wins to date, overall regular season match differential. And then a whole bunch more after. There's like 13 more after that. But
so just reading that. Sorry, I'm
then...
Swedish. I can't comprehend words. What do we expect from that?
I'm Swedish.
What's the situation going into that then? What tiebreakers are we looking at?
So if they have the same amount of points, we'll look at match win percentage and then overall regular season wins to date. Those end up being fairly similar. Those end up being basically the same thing here. So we can basically look at maps straight after the points itself. The thing is like if Philly just win their next 2 games, they will just be ahead of the Hunters. So Philly needs to lose at least 1 of these games, and then you look at and then you look at differential. So, but then so Chengdu would have to win both, and Philly would have to just would also need to win both to be ahead. To get into a tiebreaker, Philly wins 1, Chengdu wins 2. Both teams play really hard games this upcoming week. So,
I think it all comes down to Chengdu. Chengdu essentially need to tour. I don't think there's a world in which Philly loses to the Charge. It's APAC after all. But if you're Chengdu, I agree with Johnny. Heading into week 9, you need to win both games. But Shanghai looked really good this weekend. Like a team that looked very poor when they put Fade in, when they played Li Jaegon, they just looked way better. Lip and Fletter are on it. They're back to their prior form. So, I don't know. Chengdu have looked good, but I think there hasn't really been anyone that's really put Chengdu to the test just yet. I think they've just sort of been...
Seoul?
Well,
Chengdu nearly beat Seoul.
Yeah, but so I agree. Yes, Chengdu almost beat Seoul. And like they have been good and they have pushed the Seoul Dynasty. But do you think that's enough that they're all of a sudden Chengdu is going to be able to also beat Shanghai and Spark? Like that's what I'm worried about. I just don't know if they can consistently pull it out, and if they can force Jinmu off balance. Like if you can not allow Jinmu to play Genji, it gets very difficult for Chengdu, in my opinion.
I think Shanghai is the rough game. I think Hangzhou is super beatable for Chengdu, 100% beatable for them. I actually
let's focus on Spark there for a second, because we'll talk about Shanghai later. But let's focus on Spark for a second. Like how would they beat Spark?
I currently think they if I was to power rank these guys, I would actually have Chengdu 3rd and then Hangzhou 4th.
I agree.
Hangzhou, their last match. So first of all, they losing to Fusion. I don't want to shit on Fusion too hard here, but it's like Fusion have been a pretty up and down kind of team ever since their 0-4 loss to Seoul in the kickoff clash. Hangzhou losing to that is one thing, but then just getting completely destroyed by Seoul is extra. And this is where I have to use Seoul as like kind of the metric. When you look at how Hunters play versus Seoul, then you look at Hangzhou versus Seoul, it's like 2 completely different experiences, where Chengdu maybe even should have beaten Seoul if it wasn't for the 3 C9s, with 3 C9s in that game, by the way. But Hangzhou just looked like they didn't even have a chance. Like there was no hope of them even touching Seoul. So there's, to me, it was a pretty massive gulf between Hangzhou and Seoul, and Chengdu have just been able to play up to their opponent's strengths, a lot higher than that as a baseline.
Also not sold on the Architect, Anna. Like, I don't know what that screams to me, but I just don't like it. But I like Arctic wasn't the problem in their most recent match that they played, but like their backline was a problem. Like Irony and Architect had like no synergy. They were just falling over for free.
Oh, dude, the amount of times where Irony would just pop trans because he got low.
Yeah, like Vindame looked like the best flex support in that server for a bit there, and it's like, how does that even make sense? But like Vindame, like Soul wasn't playing perfectly, but Spark kind of fell over. I think Spark is gonna be, I agree, is gonna be the easier one. But can Chengdu beat Shanghai?
Yeah, I want to stay on Spark just for a little bit here. Just I'm personally invested, but also because they're a bit unique there. So the big question, I guess, is Hangzhou Spark. Like, I don't really know what to expect this upcoming week because last week they pretty much only played Irony Zenyatta and Super Rich Batiste. Okay, I kind of see that. And this week they played the Irony Zenyatta and pretty much only Architect Ana. And they also play a ton of like Shy playing the Ashe. It seems like they're a bit hesitant to watch to play the Sojourn at all. Do we think this could work?
I wouldn't say that.
You wouldn't say that?
He's played equal amounts of Ashe and Sojourn, and statistically, he's actually one of the best Sojourns in the league currently.
I would hope so.
I no, really, because I even asked the statistics to our stats guys. You might have even seen the messages. Like, who are the top 5 Sojourns based on railgun accuracy? Shy's actually number 1. That might have changed by now, but Shy was number 1 at 61% railgun accuracy. Kai was number 2 at about 59. So the margin's slim, but like Shy was actually edging out Kai. And there was one game I casted of Shy on Sojourn as well, where I recorded at halftime. I checked the stats. Shy was sitting on 80% rail accuracy at halftime, and then by the end of the game, he was still above 75. So this guy's a fucking nut. Yeah. He is. I think on the eye test and statistically, he is literally one of our best Sojourns in the entire league. But for some reason, he's playing equal amounts of Ashe. I don't know if there's a Chang'un coaching decision or a Shy like comfort decision, but that seems weird to me as well, because a person who's doing Kai level things on Sojourn shouldn't feel like, oh, I'm not feeling the Sojourn, I'm gonna go to the Ashe here. That doesn't make a lot of sense, right? So I don't know what it is. He should be playing way more Sojourn than he is, but he's playing a lot of Ashe, and it's kind of weird.
Yeah. Any additional comments on that? I feel like the Spark is one of those teams. Like, I don't trust them when it comes to like the playoff stuff. Because I'm just like, I don't know if this is gonna hold in the long run. Like, I don't know what if you can keep like getting away with this. So
it's every season, like it's every stage. It's the Chengdu.
I was gonna say,
like, they play these weird things. Once again, like in the middle of the stage, they've decided to sub in Architect, even if it has short-term success. When we get to the playoffs, it probably won't work again, and they'll finish 3rd/4th. And like that's the thing that I just don't trust Spark. And I was hoping they would fill in those holes this season, but they haven't.
No, like look at last year. One of the tournaments, they went undefeated going into the tournament, 7-0 or some shit, and then they just folded like
they lost
instantly.
to New York.
Yeah. How is that even possible
at that stage?
Ridiculous.
In front of their home crowd. In front of the home crowd. Hangzhou homestand. They lost in front of the home crowd.
The Shy Echo was
very bad.
Insane that stage, I think. They beat like Shanghai with the Shy Echo, I remember.
Shy is never the problem. Yeah, we can all agree on one thing. Shy is never the problem.
If I had to speculate about the Hangzhou Spark just like quickly, I think if I like put myself in Chang'un's shoes and like the team's shoes, the only way I could see them like trying to rationalize the Ashe would be that they played both Shanghai and Seoul correctly. And so I watched those games, and I feel like they would maybe play it to like try to shut down tracers and wrecking balls. So like Shanghai Dragons, like you can knock back the wrecking ball with the coach gun. And also you can one-shot tracers, with a headshot way more consistently as a Sojourn. And that's also why we saw Shy play Sojourn on Gibraltar, because, the opponents, they're playing Genji. So you don't have to worry about the tracer as much. So if I had to speculate, if I was a coach, I could see them trying to play the Ashe to shut down Prophet's Tracer and Fleta's Tracer and, keep wrecking balls away. That would be like my wild guess on why they played more Ashe there. But,
you can just shut it down on Sojourn.
Yeah,
but it's harder though. You gotta build that charge and right click. Like, I
think it's hard to charge the left click. That is the one justification I give for the Ashe is that, and the San Francisco Shock did the same thing with Sam on the Hanzo. Of you try and play the Sojourn versus these like wrecking ball tracer compositions, it can be very hard to charge up the rail, and it feels like you can just get run it a lot more effectively, while Ashe can sort of get more value from range and the coach gun against the ball, as Johnny said.
Yeah. So That's why I could see Shy leading more into Ash to shut down those kind of compositions. But we'll see. Maybe they'll play more Sojourn. We'll see what their backline looks like. But let's head over to Shanghai then, because that's going to be the big one for Chengdu, I feel like. I'm fully bought in to the Shanghai Dragons. I'm going to be the week one Andy, or like 1 week Andy, where I'm like, oh, they played well for 1 week, and now, you know, they're the next big thing. I've already seen like the deniers in full force, just like, oh, it's 1 week, you know, the Shanghai Dragons is not back. But I watched the games. That looked like the 2021 Shanghai Dragons to me. Fate on the wrecking ball. Obviously, Coach Moon came out this past week and was like, we had some shot calling issues when Void was in the lineup and Bebe was also playing a little bit. So we were a bit disorganized. We looked a lot worse. This week, Fate was playing the wrecking ball in Winston pretty much permanently. Lee Jae-gon was back in the lineup as well, and they looked so coordinated. Flash Tracer was sick when it comes to the team play, hitting those pulse bombs. This felt like the Shanghai Dragons of old. So Shanghai Dragons back on track with 2-3-0s. Is anyone else bought into them as much as me? Because I think they could win the whole damn thing if they play like this.
I'm Omega bought in.
Omega bought in.
I've sold every other stock and I'm like,
are you buying in for a win as well? You think they're going to beat Seoul?
Dude, I think they could do it. I think they could. They're my dark horse.
It's going to be a struggling Seoul. It's just this team is a ticking time bomb. They're fucking slow as shit to start, brand new game, whatever the fuck, and then they're just going to burst out and become one of the best teams in the league again, like for sure. Can they beat Seoul in the... Nah, maybe not. But for the moment, I'd say...
No, you guys are doubting.
No. Here's the thing. When was the last time the Shanghai Dragons disappointed us and did not perform to the level that we expect? And we're not counting last like community countdown cup or whatever it was in thing. It's been a while. Like Shanghai Dragons have always performed. When push comes to shove, they always get it together. They have such great players that they've identified their issues very well. Like I agreed. Like that was our big question. When you can only play Void or Fate, do you play Fate just because he provides so much like calling and stuff like that for the team? And we saw it this weekend. Yes, like he offers so much and they can play their style and they look better. Like I think Shanghai is going to be good. Better than Seoul? I don't think so, honestly. Personally, I think Seoul just looked to be on another level. But I think Shanghai will definitely be there, probably in the grand finals or, you know, at least in top 4, like they always are.
Yeah, they look like a top 2 team in APAC for me, for sure, right now. Like, I'm not just going to say straight up that they're definitely going to beat Seoul, but I think this is going to be the real Shanghai versus Seoul, El Clasico that should have happened. I feel really, like, kind of cheated in a way because Seth and I hyped up the Seoul Shanghai rematch so hard and then just flopped and like, what the hell is this? Because up until that stage, every Shanghai Seoul game was unbelievably good. They were the only team that could hold a candle to Seoul in the kickoff clash. In fact, maybe they could have even beaten the Seoul Dynasty. I mean, they were literally one Prophet pulse bomb carry away from winning. If Prophet doesn't get a 2K Lighthouse, you know, Shanghai probably go to the finals and maybe win. So they were that good. And now, okay, they had a poor start, but I give Shanghai a shitload of rope as they're, I think, eligible to have because they've had such a good history in the past. So I'm willing to give them a lot of rope. And they didn't take that long. Like 1 week's of bad performances, come back, boom. Instantly just a top tier team again, based on all metrics, the eye test, everything. The problems I had with them in week 1, they fixed so fast.
Yeah. As I said, I'm fully bought into this team, and I'm looking forward. They're also qualified, so they're guaranteed in. But I just can't wait to see this Shanghai Dragons. If they show up to Hawaii, I could honestly just maybe it's nostalgia goggles, you know. Just see them perform like they did in the 2021 playoffs. It's not the same meta. It's completely different dynamics. But I could just see them sitting in their room, winning the thing, going to eat McDonald's afterwards after they won. You know, the Shanghai Dragon stuff. That's what they do. Are you worried about this team when they go up against NA teams, Jaws? Do you think playing against good Doomfist teams?
Dude, it's Apex again, just on a weird other plane of existence. I'm sorry, AVRL, but the meta seems to evolve way quicker in NA, and I'm not sure if that's because there's more teams in North America, so there's more experimentation and finding what's good or whatever.
North America thinks Ryan is good. I have no respect, sorry.
Okay, let's just dive into this. We're getting ahead of ourselves. Let's go. Okay. Let's just dive in. NA versus APAC. Right. Who do we got? Okay, which region is better? What do we think?
I'm gonna pull out that Unco tweet. What is that Unco tweet again?
Oh my god. Okay, here's the thing.
Someone tweeted the other day.
APAC have better individual players. In my opinion, in the top 4, the players are just better. They are mechanically just more sound. But I do not like how they're playing the game. And I don't think they have enough adaptation in them. I think the rush is going to be very good to have in the back pocket for teams like the Gladiators, right? Like if they go to Kings Row and you force these teams into APAC and they're like, we know how to play a really good May rush, the APAC teams are going to very heavily struggle to understand how to deal with that. Do I think Rush is going to be able to play everywhere and beat APAC? No. But I think the NA teams right now, I think your San Francisco Shocks and your Gladiators, they could push Seoul. And I think Seoul right now is the only team that I think would be able to hold a candle to them. Probably Shanghai as well when we get to the playoffs. But I think those top 4 teams, I can't tell you which way it's going to go, but I think Rush will be an important factor of it.
There's 2 great teams in APAC right now, and that is Seoul and that is Shanghai Dragons, right? There are way more teams to experiment with, to evolve a meta in North America. Yeah, some of those teams are fucking Paris Eternal, but you are still at a point where you can play way more. And it just in general, more fucking teams are going to make the meta evolve a lot quicker than it is in a very concentrated environment like in APAC. I think they are going to struggle, like for sure. I don't see like San Francisco Shock getting absolutely fucking whooped, like destroyed by an APAC team right now. I do kind of agree with Scott, actually, though.
I don't think anyone's going to get destroyed.
The quality of player. No, well, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, I don't fucking see the San Francisco Shock getting fucking owned. But I think the qualities of players and the fucking skill of some of them are just like god tier. Like Profit, of course, like Fleder, etc., Lib. But North America, I think they're just going to roll APAC, at least for the most part.
Roll APAC. Avril?
Roll. He said roll.
He did say the word roll. I didn't say roll.
I was even respectful enough to say, like, I don't think anyone's like shitting on anyone really hard. I think there should be some close games at the top level. I'm not going to come in and say that Chung
and he's still gonna fucking
probably won't be. Probably. I played a little bit of Overwatch recently for fun. I come back and the meta in ranked is Reinhardt. You guys still don't understand the game or what? Fucking Reinhardt could fly, wouldn't be the meta. Use your brain. You can tell the shit with competition. Like, come on.
I love it.
On a serious note, like you even with the rush, it's only really viable on specific rush type maps. So this is where map pick becomes super important. Again, how many control maps are in the pool versus how many times we have to play push, because push is inherently just better for rush type compositions, whereas control Koth is better for dive compositions for the most part. So coming down to who gets what map pick and going on the difference between even some of the hybrids is some are much better for rush, some are much worse for rush. And I mean, you see it in the fact that you watch London games and Hardy's playing Winston half the time now. Poker's like in a lot of these games because even they recognize you can't just play Ryan every single map. There's not a one triggerable hero, right? So even that aside, I think we've seen in NA like plenty of dive teams are still playing a bit of Winston, still lots of Doom. And that's not super different from APAC in general. APAC just doesn't really have the rush anymore. Some teams still play a bit of Zarya, which I consider to be rush. I think most people would consider that to be rush for the most part. But other than that, it's just a lot of dive. I think APAC has historically always been the better dive region. I think Seoul's the best dive team in the world right now. They have the best dive combo in Profit and Smurf together. So all of that like just works massively in their favor. But respectfully, I don't think anyone's going to roll each other. But I think
respectfully.
I think we're gonna play a lot of dive, and I think APAC at the top level is better at dive.
Yeah.
Okay, I just want us to remember back to the grand final. Well, not the grand finals, the playoffs of last year.
Not the grand finals, where
we won't talk about the grand finals. But like the point stands of like the rush cannot be the be all end all, right? Like that cannot be the West solutions of how we beat the East. But we saw that there are some teams out there who just did not have an answer to the rush. And that's my fear for the APAC teams, because I like the APAC teams. I love watching them more than the West for the most part. But I'm worried that if the Gladiators start playing the rush and like they have those maps that just like the East cannot go to because they are worried of these teams playing rush, it is going to be a massive boon for the West.
Why do you think they can't answer the rush?
Because
have they shown a history of not being able to do that?
Historically, they've never wanted to play like Seoul Dynasty. Like on the rush, I do not trust to be able to beat the Gladiators. Like if we end up in a,
not going to play the rush. They just won't play the rush.
I kind of disagree there.
Like if we end up on like Kings Row, then I don't know if they're going to be able to like. We've shown in the West that the rush can be very, very good, even against some of the best dive teams in the West. Every time someone pulls out a really good rush with the Maywall.
My response is I don't think the dive teams in NA is as good. There's your clip if you want it. Sorry,
that's fair.
Maybe clickbait for you as well. But I think the level of dive in APAC is just higher. They've historically always been
I
a higher
definitely agree
level,
with that.
especially
But, like,
especially when we took the veterans as well between Shanghai and Seoul. Like all those players are so masterful in dive. Yeah, if the dive teams at NA can't play against the Rush, I just don't think that's the same for APAC teams playing versus Rush.
I actually think
they're not
that
practicing against that kind of style, though.
That's
as
the problem,
well.
right?
they're not practicing against it, but I think they have I actually do think they have a fundamental understanding of how it works, and I also think they're at the game IQ that when you VOD review some of those brawl teams, or just like you have an idea, like a good perception of how do we play against this, like how do we break this down. And you can do that without having to like get into the nitty-gritty of like someone's like lost, like where do I stand versus, you know, brawl compositions, like what positions do I take, stuff like that. I feel like Seoul Dynasty, you know, there's a few rookies on Seoul Dynasty, but overall I feel like especially the Shanghai Dragons, they're so experienced and smart at the game that I don't think that they would run into like major issues in breaking those compositions down. I actually do think that a Shanghai Dragons composition that they're so already good at deals with Brawl in a pretty good way. I mean, you're playing Zenyatta, Wrecking Ball, Tracer to out-navigate some of those compositions. Sojourn is not going to have a problem dealing damage and finding picks there. Maybe you'll be like caught off guard by some, you know, backbone right clicks on Mei. But I feel like in general, if we talk about Seoul and Shanghai specifically, I don't think they'll run into like any major issues. Could I see London like taking maps if it's like Midtown or something? Sure. But I don't think there's going to be this massive like surprise that just catches us some teams off guard. If you want to talk about like Hangzhou Spark and Philly, that's a completely separate conversation because I don't have any trust in them maybe figuring it out. But Shanghai and Seoul, I think they're fine.
I'm 100% on board with Johnny here. I agree with everything Johnny just said.
Yeah, I think that's the point. Like Seoul and Shanghai, like we can both agree that they have so many veterans. They all know how to play Rush. Like they can deal with it. I think their lack of experience might be a problem, but I was more talking about like, as I said, like your Sparks and that kind of stuff. Of, like London, I think London Spitfire is going to hard dunk on the Hangzhou Spark, even though theoretically Spark have a lot of great players against it. Probably, I think Spark Chengdu's gonna their entire team's just gonna be like, what do we do? And then
let's mirror.
Yeah, and then they probably will, right? Like, I that's my fear. Like, I'm not only just talking about the top end. I'm talking about like the entire mid-season madness of teams in the West. Because we like Gladiators don't even really play that much Rush. I'm more talking about like Londons and stuff like that.
Yeah. I am. As for my feelings,
how far London gonna go?
Yeah.
Okay, okay, let's calm down. Let's calm down. We'll get there. This is just like a moosh boost. Okay, we'll get the whole story next week on the Plat Chat podcast. Subscribe to the channel. We'll get there next week. Okay, that was just like a bit of an appetizer. I do feel like in general, when we look at most teams here, you know, San Francisco Shock, Atlanta Reign, LA Gladiators, Shanghai Dragons, Seoul. I'd say those are probably like top 5, and then you have Dallas Fuel. They're like lurking with their Lucio Mora stuff. Like, I feel. This is a bit disingenuous, but I feel like for most part, going into Hawaii, small differences are kind of like ironed out into like form. Like, you know, how do you feel like adapting to time zones? Like APAC will have to play early and West teams will have to go later. West teams are playing away from home. Like small details like that are kind of like going to iron out performances. And then it's about adapting to the enemy compositions. In this case, Seoul Dynasty and Shanghai playing a lot of like dive compositions, stuff like that. I think it's harder to just like adapt to Prophet Tracer. You're just like, how do we deal with Prophet's Tracer? It's like probably easier to talk about than it is to deal with in action. And so I feel like those two APAC teams are going to be pretty strong. I don't want to spend too much time here because we are going to address this in later episodes as well.
Am I allowed to bring up one
small thing? Okay, but you're not allowed to dunk on Custa and Jaws because I'm not getting into.
He dunks on me. I'm dunking back.
Not dunking. It's just a response. It's a very out there response. No dunking. As much as I enjoy dunking, no, it's not a dunk. The response to Custa saying like you know they don't get actually Jack said this too. You don't get the practice against the Rush in APAC. Like, well, they didn't get the practice against the Rush in APAC last year too. But so
they got dominated by the Atlanta Reign. What do you mean? The Atlanta Reign absolutely rolled everyone through the playoffs. What does that even mean?
They rolled the LA teams though. Washington, Atlanta beat Washington, LA Gladiators, Shock in Dallas.
You remember Atlanta losing to Chengdu? Did you know that Atlanta
because all the other
APAC
teams got knocked out before they even got further into the tournament because Chengdu was playing.
My point is, even though they never got the practice against the Rush, even though they never got the practice against the Rush last year, they still fucking beat the best Rush teams in NA.
Yeah, it's because Shanghai's fucking gods here. You know, we're not arguing. I'm not
arguing.
What's
going to be different this year then?
Because I hope we get to see Seoul Dynasty not fizzle out of the playoffs in the first round.
Honestly, same. All right, we're on the same page now.
Yeah, there we go.
We've come full circle and we agree. I like it. No.
We've gone so far opposite, we ended up at the same spot.
We talked it out. We talked it out. All right. So we'll talk more about that in later episodes, and I will just talk about NA. So AVRL's favorite topics coming up right here. As for NA, I mean, I don't know. I feel like there are so many like one-sided matches in the NA region, and it's kind of like boring to recap. You can't really extrapolate any like interesting storylines for the most part. Obviously, what our top 8 figured out now. I feel like the match that made like the biggest waves, that hit the highest on the Richter scale, it was the Atlanta Reign versus Houston Outlaws matchup. That was pretty close. And Houston Outlaws ended up beating the Atlanta Reign by some kind of last row miracle. I mean, when you talk about like CSGO sprays, like sprays on maps, stuff like that, just put like a Lucio on Ilio as well, like at this point, because he survived for so long, and then Atlanta Reign step off the point. So I want to go to you, Jaws, here, because you actually casted this match. You were there firsthand. You were like, "Oh, Atlanta Reign, they're winning." Or you didn't actually say this. I'm sorry, I don't want to misrepresent what you said.
No, I was like,
it felt like they were winning.
I said that. I said, well, because it was like a fucking 5v2 or whatever it was, and I was like, well, like, yeah, the fucking Reign, they fucking clean up, bro. Now it's all Gucci. Like, you in your head, you're like, well, for me, like, in commentary, like finishing the very end of the series and end of the match, and you're kind of thinking about what you're saying and also kind of speaking about what's happening on the screen. So I'm like, in my head, I'm formulating like, oh, what's my final line? And then this fucking bullshit happens, the most egregious C9 of any C9 ever in existence. How does this fucking happen? Because also, like, I'm concentrating on the middle of the screen, right? So I don't see the fucking the small little red bar. No, sorry, the small little white bar when they do end up reflipping. This is a little bit earlier on. I don't fucking see that shit. So yeah, I'm as surprised as anybody else. This is the most egregious C9 of all C9s. Like,
really? I think Youngjin has to.
Youngjin is still worse. Youngjin is still worse.
I wouldn't say I wouldn't say egregious, but like the most like holy fucking shit, like out of nowhere moments. Not like, oh, all the enemy team are in fucking spawn and then
it's like top 3 all time C9s, I think.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So this is the point, where it's like the white bar is going around, and I'm like, yeah, they're gonna fucking win. Look, they're killing everybody, and then they just get a point.
And I tell you what I think the most egregious moment is not even the actual C9 act itself. It was the 5 versus 2 into the boostio.
Yeah, that was so sick.
I think it was so cool for Eris to do the boostio. You'll see in a second. Look at the number of players alive for both Atlanta and Outlaws. And then, Eris pops the boostio onto Lastro, keeps him alive, and the Reign failed to kill this guy. To be fair, it is a boostio, and sometimes that is hard to do. You have 5 fucking players alive. You have 5 people
No,
alive.
they're not 5. And here's the thing of what makes it so ridiculous. Like, there's so many things that had to go right/wrong for these teams. Of the only reason Lastro lived so long is because the Tracer killed themselves. Venom fell off the map, I think it was.
He did.
So Venom is not there to be able to punish the Lucio quickly. So then the Lucio lives just long enough, gets the nano, stays alive, and then fucking Hawk also decides to go in the pit. He like punches someone while he's over the pit, so then he falls into the pit, and then Nero uses the meteor. Oh my!
And at this moment, Pelican on Tracer is pressuring the backline. So not only does Hawk is dead, Nero goes up into the air, and Ultraviolet and OG step off because they're peeling at Tracer in the backline as well. So it's just the ultimate shitstorm.
OG takes a long way to peel for UV. Like, UV's trying to stay alive. OG goes to the health pack room instead of staying on the point. So if he just chose to stay on the point and move to UV that way, he would have been fine. I can't blame Nero for meteor striking either, because it's like,
because you also didn't expect your fucking Doom and Tracer player to jump off the map.
Like, teams also forget that in that exact moment, when you've been in this OT for so long, that if anyone steps off, it's like boom, instantly gone. And I think a lot, you're still thinking like, oh, we got like a second here, we can just retouch. I'll just fly into the air, jump down, will be fine. But like, no, when the OT's been that long, it literally just flips instantly. So it's hard to remember that sometimes, I guess.
And comms have broken down. Like, there is no communication at this point. Like, there is, but it's very, like, in these hype moments, like, it is generally just a lot of yelling of people, like, talking about the players staying alive, saying they need help. Very few people are yelling point. Like, you can see Hawk, like, you guys have seen the screen cap of him, like, screaming, get to the point, because he's dead. Like, he's the only one who really has that outside perspective, and he's just like, point, and you just see him, like, he has, like, that awful still of, like, it looks like he's in a horror movie, and he's just witnessing
I actually really like Nero as well, when he's up in the air. I don't know if you can go back, Kurt, as well, and just, like, pause, like, directly when it happens. Because Nero is in the air on Doomfist, and like as it's about to land, he's just like opens wide, just like touch. And he can't go down. I love it. It's absolutely hilarious. So yeah, there you go. He's touch. I love it.
Dude, he's only like half a second off as well. It's so tragic.
It's absolutely it's horrible,
insane.
and it is
like
ironic because it's Houston.
I just can't believe. Yeah, that is true. I just can't believe in a situation that like a boostio happens and it's a 2v5 and then you lose. Because like I said, I'm in like breaking down like, okay, fucking what I'm gonna say at the very end. Like I'm sure the players were almost in that too. You know, when you're in unlosable situation and you are like, okay, you know, what's next round? What's this? What's that? And then something fucking bullshit happens and you have to like get yourself back into the fucking zone, back into the game because it's not done. Like it's. What are the other egregious C9s? I don't fucking know.
The Youngin C9 is
sure.
And he's
number
alone
one
on the cart on Dorado,
for sure,
and just walks off. Like he's alone on the cart, just walks off.
Different categories, you know. There's stupidity C9s, and then there's like
this is not a stupidity
precious C9s
like,
where it's like someone like they've as a collective unit. Everyone stepped off. There's been a couple, like the Moth one, the San Francisco Shock in the playoffs, the one where they all ended up off the point.
What's the Shanghai one that Bren Sideshow casted? It was on Blizzard World, and it just ended. And Bren's like, whoa, 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 and Sideshow's like, they just didn't touch. Was that moment?
Yeah, I can't remember that one. Yeah.
If I could interject here, we should absolutely do a top 10 C9s episode at some point.
We should make a thread somewhere where people can submit, because I'm not going back through the vaults and just like where are C9s? You know, maybe we'll search on compo.
It was a glorious one that O2 blasted in contenders this year's last year as well. I don't know if that'd be allowed now. Probably only Overwatch League videos. I don't know.
Yeah. So
it was a legitimate Youngjin moment. Anyway.
So yeah, let's move on from that. Great C9 moment, and actually talk about the match. Sorry, Kurt. I wanted to talk about the match just for a second as well. Because obviously this is Houston Outlaws actually beating like a better team. I feel like forever now, Houston Outlaws have always been this team that like beats down on the lower teams. And they're actually at a 7-3 record now, whereas Atlanta Reign is 6-5. So Houston Outlaws, they're 7-3 in the regular season. London Spitfire, they're 8-3. But Houston Outlaws now, should we? Is this like a statement win for them, being able to hang with the Atlanta Range? Do we start considering them like a bit upper tier compared to like looking down on them and joking about them all the time?
No.
Okay.
No, I agree with you. Like I was just messing with you. I think the problem with Houston is, okay, here's where we're gonna put them. Houston beats every bottom tier team about top 4, top 5, and then they lose to every team top 4, top 5. And it's not really close. This Atlanta one was probably the best win that they've had in a long time. Like, to me, they genuinely are the gatekeeper team of, like, the top end of the West, right? Like, they will firmly stay below that tier break, but they will stay above at the top of that tier break because they are a great team. They have great players, and I think they're playing to their strengths, especially in a double flex support meta. Maybe this will be the breaking of that mold because they do look to be improved, and they look like they can beat the Atlanta Reign. But, like, we can't forget, they got pretty booty bopped by the Gladiators last week. So I don't.
Apart from the C9s, did they though?
I didn't like how they played. Yeah, it was close, but I don't think the Gladiators were playing perfectly either. Like, to me, like, yes, the C9s, like, they could have won those maps, but the fact that they almost won both those maps were like massive comebacks in my eyes. Like, they had that crazy run at the very end on this match in the match against the Gladiators. I don't know. Maybe I haven't lived down the Jake bathroom moment, and I just can't trust them anymore.
Got something special cooked up.
Yeah. Maybe I just can't trust them because of that. But I'm not sold that this win against Atlanta Reign is going to instantly propel them. Are they going to be able to have a crazy run in the midseason madness? I just don't see it. They'll always be there. They'll always be a strong team. They'll always qualify. But I'm not sold on them being a top tier team.
Okay.
This maybe doesn't sound fair, but like despite beating Atlanta, I still think Atlanta's the better team because when you go back again, it's like 9 out of 10 times Atlanta probably win. It's just that C9 is so peculiar, right? I don't know. I still would probably bank on Atlanta a little bit more than Houston, but I think Houston, it is impressive. I'm gonna lie.
Yeah,
I'd be the same. I'd always pred Atlanta over Houston at this point. They beat lower tier teams, but they just can't beat higher tier teams. They look like they just fumble just constantly against really good teams.
I don't know. I I shouldn't talk about the Houston Outlaws. Me and the Outlaws, we have like a special thing going on where every time I predict them, they lose, and every time I predict against them, they somehow win or something like that. So it feels a bit awkward. But I do think there's something to say about them in this meta, though. I feel like Pelican struggled on Tracer pretty early on in this stage, and you could tell that like he couldn't hang with like the top kind of players. But we're also seeing some teams move over to Genji, which frees up Pelican to play the Genji alongside Merit playing the Sojourn. Dante is playing the Doomfist pretty good. And then you have Luster Iris as a double flex support backline. Like, I think in theory, and, you know, some people roll their eyes at this, but, like, they figured out the compositions. And I think that matters because a lot of teams, they're still, like, they're struggling to find what works for us, what is our player rotation going to be. And that is a significant, like, practice, you know, a significant amount of practice goes into figuring that stuff out. The Houston Outlaws, I feel like they've ironed out what they're about, what they're doing on what maps and how they're going to play. And I feel like with some refinements, I do think that they could punch upwards. And, you know, and now they're qualified for the midseason madness. Like, I could see them taking on teams like the 3 and 4th in APAC, like the Philadelphia Fusion or Chengdu Hunters for that matters, or like Hangzhou Spark. Like, I feel like they could contest those teams. And I think that in itself, it's like, you know, a bit of an achievement for this franchise. So I do feel like this is a bit of a perfect kind of stage for them to try to perfect their game. No? Okay, great. No one likes the Houston Outlaws. Yes, let's move on. I tried to give the Houston Outlaws fans some hopium. There you go, Houston Outlaws fans.
You did a great job.
Thank you.
You almost convinced me, and then I shook my head. I was like, wait, no, never mind.
All right.
You took your mind back to the bathroom, like, no, never again.
Yeah.
Bit of a lullaby for you guys.
I did mention that broadcast, by the way, Scott, and I was like, well, you know, Jake said that.
I did catch it. Yeah.
I was like, dude, I was actually slightly tilted when that happened, and you were like, yeah, okay, Jake just said there's something fucking crazy.
I was so excited for
and
the broadcast. I was like,
we're like, oh,
really? Going to do something interesting.
Are they going to play like Far or some shit? Holy fuck, Jake Rat, like just something fucking stupid. We get into the game and they're like, they got fuck all. Like,
they're just playing Moira again.
He plays Moira. Yeah, exactly. It's like, whoa, some fucking Moira is so different. I'm like, come on, dude. I don't know if that's just a bait or like they did actually have something up their sleeve and they just didn't get around to using it, or like just didn't find a place. I don't fucking know, but that shit was whack.
All right. There you go, Houston Outlaws fans. So we got one more team to talk about before we get into like the predictions and all that stuff. And I think it's quite obvious at this point. It's going to be the London Spitfire, who did prevent the reverse sweep against the Washington Justice by winning map 5. And the topic right now is London Spitfire top 4 team. I think we could restrict that to NA. Is London Spitfire top 4 team in NA? I think that should be the question. You could make the argument that they haven't really beaten any like top team as of yet. They have beaten down on a lot of lower opponents. The London Spitfire fans, they're like going bonkers on social media because they have this win streak going on. But if you actually took a look at that win streak, the teams they've beaten is Atlanta Reign 3-2 last stage. Pretty impressive, you know, beating Atlanta Reign 3-2. But, you know, Atlanta Reign, they had some difficulties last stage as well, like figuring out their stuff in the regular season, you know, Doomfist, stuff like that. Florida Mayhem, Toronto Defiant, New York Excelsior, Paris Eternal, Washington Justice. None of those matches scream to me just like London Spitfire is a top team. So they have this great win streak going on. They have racked up so many wins. They're looking great going into the midseason madness. But are they like really a top team? Like, how do we feel about them compared to the likes of Atlanta Reign, Houston Outlaws, etc. at this stage?
The thing about it is those matches have been close. Like, they've gone out of those 6 matches that they're on a win streak, 3 of them have gone to 5. So like they're not just rolling over these teams. They've been close, and you know they're a good team. For me, I have to work backwards of like, are they going to be a top 4 team? Are they better than the San Francisco Shock? No. Are they better than the Gladiators? No. So then who is above them? I think Atlanta Reign is better than London Spitfire. But for right now, if we're talking in this snapshot of time, I believe that London Spitfire are better than Dallas Fuel and the Houston Outlaws. So I do think they are top 4. I would pred the London Spitfire versus both of those teams. Is that rational and reasonable? Probably not. But I haven't loved what I've seen from Dallas. They went to 5 against New York Excelsior. And Houston Outlaws, as I said before, you know, I don't trust them because of the bathroom incident. So
PTSD, the bathroom incident.
Yeah, that's it. You know, that's it. I'm never going back into that bathroom where Jake's there. So I don't know. I just like how London are playing. I think that they sort of had this trump card. Do I think that they're going to consistently be a top 4 team? No, not at all. I think they've been quite fortunate in the meta and how everything's come out. But I think right now, sure, they can do it.
AVRL, as you're watching,
I would really like to see them play. I would really like to see them play a team like Atlanta or Houston again. because those are the big Doom teams, and Doom, is pretty favored in the Rhine matchup. I'm still, as I mentioned earlier, I'm not a huge believer in Rhine. I think London do a good job on it. A lot of that is actually the unsung hero of Backbone as well on that May. That's someone that people need to talk about a little bit more, because I know Hardy is currently the champion of the people, but Backbone enables him so much to make that competition work.
Absolutely.
You look at DP's recent tweets, you look at Spiller's recent tweets, like London had to really work to make this happen. I don't think Ryan is like meta for everybody. I think London they are the best at this because they have Hardy in the Rhine, they have Backbone in the May, and with that and then building up the rest of the pieces to make it look good, like Sparker still gets to play stuff like the Sojourn, which is broken right now. He gets to play like the broken hero, whether it's Soldier 76 from last stage or the Sojourn now. Are they a top 4 team? I think I land on the side of currently no, because I still think teams like, maybe this is just copium, like teams like Atlanta and Houston would have the edge. I just so distinctly remember that Houston game versus London last stage. And I know Atlanta lost him, but they also did that like random gay to Rhine stuff, which is just so bad when they don't even they didn't even practice the rush. Like they even admitted afterwards, like, yeah, we actually don't even scrim the rush. I'm like, well, why the hell did you play Gator on this hero then? Like, actually made no sense, the decision making for the Rain when they last played against London. So I'd be interested in the rematch. I think London is a competitive team. I know it sounded like I was trying to dunk on them earlier, but I'm not a big believer in the Rhine, but I think they can make it work. But I think it can only get you so far.
I think they have a very good chance against the Dallas Fuel, which is their next opponent. Like, I'd agree. I think, although I do think they could beat Outlaws, I think Outlaws are so like variable at this point. Like, what the fuck Outlaws is going to show up like? But against the Atlanta Rain, I'd take the Rain over them. I'd put him like a solid 4th right now, where it's Shock, Glads, Rain, London, and then like Fuel Outlaws, like something like that.
That's where I'm at.
Yeah, that's the way I'm thinking currently, because I still think Atlanta Rain, regardless of that like horrendous game, although I wouldn't say horrendous, just earth-shattering, to be very specific, game on Control against Outlaws. I still think in the neutral, especially with Kai on Sojourn, they are just so good still. So good. And Hawk is very, very good at Doomfist. And like Avril was saying, like against the Rhine comp, the Doom comp does do fairly decent against it.
The other thing is the Sparker Kai conversation, right? Because I think last stage, Sparker Soldier was, especially when they played up against each other in that particular match, even better than Kai Soldier in that matchup, right? Whereas now, I think Kai Sojourn is just a league above everyone else, especially in NA. So I don't think Sparker can hold a candle to Kai in the Sojourn like he could with the 76.
I also think London is benefiting off of kind of like what the Chengdu effect of last year was, is that just people don't really play against that much rush. Like they have the advantage because they know how to play the matchups. They know how to play it because they are the team, right? No one else is playing it. So they just have that advantage, but that always catches up to you, right? Like that, and it will catch up to the London Spitfire. The real question is like, where does it end, right? Like how high can they go before they really start getting called out? I just like to believe, because I think it's a funny storyline, and I think the London Spitfire team has been, you got to give a lot of credit. I'm referenced the interview that I saw from Christopher in the past. Like if you saw the budgeting of these teams and what the London Spitfire have managed to accomplish with what they have, you need to just take your hats off and respect what they've done. So, massive respect to that team.
Absolutely. People are going to ask why we're not just doing a power rankings if we're going to go about this segment. The answer to that question is that I've asked has actually licensed the copyright to all future Overwatch League power rankings, and so if I've asked it's not on the show, we can't do power rankings. Sorry, guys. That's just how it is. So yeah, we're about to get into predictions and stuff like that, but before that, we're gonna take a quick break, just like a halftime here on the show. So we're gonna go get some water. I'll take a restroom break.
We have these now.
Yeah, we have these now. We have small breaks. So go get some water.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to thank some of the awesome people supporting the show.
Yo, Tay's in the chat. What's up, dude? Anyway, BRB.
Hi, everybody. How you doing? Let me get some music going. What's up, Jaws? Dude, shout out to Jaws and Johnny for getting their license recently. Kind of need a license to function in the U.S., and they've done it. They're contributing to society, or living in society. They have already been contributing to society. I gotta get some good music going. If any of you guys have any good suggestions that are copyright free, DM me on Twitter, or DM the or message the Plat chat account on Twitter. It's the only one I know off the top of my head is Carefree. into it for 2 minutes. I can't get enough of this song. It's too good. Welcome to member Jingle Nuts. By the way, for those that have become members, appreciate you very much. Shout out to the sponsors we've been getting. They've been keeping our show alive, and of course the members and donations are heavily impactful as well. So we very much appreciate all of you. And of course, just watching the stream, liking the stream, enjoying the content, it all helps. So thank you. Each host has a coffee cup on the table. God tier production Kurt. Thank you, Moses. Welcome to member. Welcome back to member as well. I still have to figure out how to get the resubs. I guess remembers. I don't know what you call them on rejoiners. I got to get them to pop up on this screen if they're not popping up. I haven't figured that out yet. But yeah, for those that are wondering why Sideshow and Bren are not here, they're actually traveling to Copenhagen today, and I will be joining them to do a broadcast for Valorant, for our Valorant podcast. But I've configured travel PC, so I will be able to do the Plat Chat Overwatches as well. So we're not going to miss any Plat Chat Overwatch episodes. We're just going to be in a different location. So that should be fun.
I thought they were gone because they were doing the live action Minions Rise of Gru film.
Yeah, they're going to Copenhagen to do that first, and then they're going to do Valorant stuff after. Sense, yeah.
Okay, thank God. I didn't want them to lose the part of Minion 1 and Minion 2. That would be devastating to their careers.
I agree. Dude, I'm surprised that's been popping off on the internet. I've not been following it really that closely. Yeah. So I guess it's really just Minions, right?
And shit.
That's a Morbius type thing, or what? Am I missing out on the Zoom?
I feel like it's a Morbius thing, yeah.
It's a
i.e. we're probably all going to go see it. Kurt, come with me, please. I want to go see it.
Yeah, I'm going to go to LA. Let's go to the nice theater in LA.
Come to LA. London, dude, I can drive now. I'll drive down to Texas and we can go.
I saw the London players went. They went and Hardy sent out a tweet, and the Minions Twitter responded.
No way.
No fucking
they did.
shot.
Let me find that. Twitter responded.
No way.
Go to Hardy's Twitter, you'll see it.
They actually do that a lot. Minion Twitter. Yeah, I don't really get minions, but you know, whatever makes you laugh. 3,000 tweets.
He actually did. Sunglasses emoji. Epic.
Epic gamers.
Epic.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we'll wait for Custa here.
There it is. No way.
Minions, Pog Chat.
Real Minions account tweeted.
What did I come back to? What are we doing?
Apparently the movie's not that bad.
Minions for?
I don't know. Just it's the flavor of the week, I guess.
The thing to do.
The flavor of the week. All right, we're back in business to wrap up this Plat Chat episode. Hope everyone got a drink. I got some water right here. Yep, stay hydrated.
I actually just.
Oh yeah, you're doing great, Jack. Keep it up.
Whoa, the meta now will be to purposely make a bad movie so you get astroturfed.
Yeah.
Wait, what?
Yeah, but that happened, and then they re-released Morbius in films in cinemas, and they made $82 or something.
No, it was $82. I think it was 82,000, which in the grand scheme of things is nothing.
$82.
It's just 82. They had 4 people go to the movies.
That's amazing. $82,000. Wow. They could buy 1.5 Valiant player with that. Anyway, let's get into predictions for week 9. We've got a recap. Last week's viewer prediction, of course. The match was Seoul against the Hangzhou Spark. So here's how you did.
Hey!
Insane.
Good job, Timmy.
I've not seen this.
Good job, Timmy. 4-2 is the total record of the viewers. We need to.
Whoa, that's pretty good.
Yeah, we need to ask some tougher questions, I feel like. Well, there's lots of good matches. This coming up in a week. But first, let's recap our predictions. I don't think AVRL has been on the show when we're doing predictions.
No,
week,
I have not.
It's just me and
that's
Custa.
it. We're actually in the same photo. That's pretty sick.
Oh, that's
true.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Me and AVRL is too, believe it or not. But
yeah, I've still got glasses on. Look at that.
Yeah,
true. Pog.
Holy shit.
Old school AVRL.
Costa leading again. You hate to see it. All right, but Jaws and AVRL.
Yeah.
With the green bars.
Big.
Let's go, AVRL.
Nice.
I think we're actually losing as well. I'm pretty sure someone is super far ahead. Who was it?
No,
I think Avast is owning. Is it Avast who's owning in the Preds?
Let me double check here.
I think Sideshow and us were like 69% last week.
Yeah, they're doing okay.
Josh is
Yeah, so
doing
they're doing great.
awful. That's the only thing I remember is
Okay.
Josh
What a
is doing
surprise.
terrible. I think Bren
Got
and
it.
Avast are doing good.
What did
Got it.
Bren
Doesn't Josh
say?
just watch Madagascar Valorant VODs? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
Bren
now.
said he's only putting based on how good teams were in like 2020 or something.
Yeah, he said that in the last episode. He's
That
like,
is
I
a
just go off of
strat.
old school strength.
I gotta give credit to him. At least he does his homework because he does watch the matches.
He does. He does.
Avast
yeah.
is 69%, which is 3
Nice.
above Custa.
There you go.
Yeah.
Right now, I actually also have it logged for like whenever we have guests. Our guests are at 71% total. So
Oh my
our guests
god.
are pounding.
So Joss and Avril, you're working team
Keep it up,
today.
keep it up.
It's the Mario Party 2 versus 2 thing going on here, or well,
Right,
1
okay.
versus 1 versus 2, I guess. Me and Custa fighting for ourselves. So let's get into the matches. We got 6 matches today, and we're kicking it off with the APAC matches. So this will be interesting then, or maybe not too interesting. We got the Shanghai Dragons taking on the Chengdu Hunters for our first match. Let's see what people go with this one. Chengdu playing for their APAC lives, but we're all predicting Shanghai Dragons. Pretty straightforward. I feel like we've been over this.
Yeah.
Nothing spicy.
It's a guarantee.
Spicy.
Just
A guarantee?
Is it a
The first
guarantee?
guarantee?
Oh,
Let's
Do
do
you
it.
think it is a guarantee?
I think it's a guarantee.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah, let's do it. It's a guarantee.
Oh God! Hey, why did you had a great face. Oh my God.
That's a really good
I don't
one.
know. We would take you a photo.
Yeah. Sorry. That's
What the
what we're
fuck?
doing here on Plat Chat.
Dude, production level?
Yeah.
Are they going through the
First
roof?
and stepping up.
I love it.
It's a
Yeah.
guarantee. All right.
Kurt is the GOAT. Kurt is the MVP. I
true.
feel like a player of the week later. Well, we'll see about it. Next match. It's another Chengdu Hunters match because they got 2, of course, versus the Hangzhou Spar.
Oh my.
Okay, and Avril
God.
goes with the Chengdu Hunters. Let's hear it.
Wait, yeah.
I didn't go
think
for
that-
Chengdu. Why did I go for Chengdu?
Like, so when we talked about Chengdu earlier, I said that I would power rank them higher than Hangzhou right now. Part of the reason is I think they have looked generally better in this meta. They played way closer to tough opponents like Seoul. Their peaks have just been insane. Chengdu also play to their opponent's strengths a lot, so maybe that's why like sometimes when they play against poor teams, they kind of look like they're bad as well. But when they play against better teams, they're fucking good. So the strengths on this team are even the backline as well. I think Monk and Nisha are currently I trust them a lot more than Irony Super Rich or Irony Architect. That's like a big reason for that. I think DPS lines are fairly comparable, minus the fact that okay, sometimes Jinmu's Hero will do kind of let them down, but Jinmu and Alpha Yi can play mostly the same things. They'll probably bail each other out in terms of hero pool, in terms of what they want to play each. Leave and Shy, both very good Sojins currently in the meta. And tank line, I mean, Bernard's been good, but they lock themselves into a lot of the off-tank type heroes, whereas I think Dive is still really strong in APAC, and Chengdu is showing Gaga Dive, Gaga Winston has been pretty good. Gaga Ball has been really insane as well.
Yeah. I don't trust the Spark at all. But apparently when I decided to do this prediction, I did. So work that one out. I don't know, maybe I just struggle to see a world in which Alpha Yi Shy don't beat Jinmu. Not Leave, because Leave's gonna be great. But like every time I feel like I believe in Chengdu, I just like watch a game and Jinmu just like turbo feeds. And like it just like reminds me of all the problems that I think Chengdu have. But I agree with everything that Avril said. So honestly, the better bet probably is Chengdu at this point. But I feel
It's the support for me.
Yeah, maybe I've just been spending too much time with Johnny. Maybe that's it.
Sorry.
You've just been selling me on this Spark hopium for so long that I've been blinded by the light.
I mean, I kind of feel that way too because I saw the Preds come up and I was like, huh, I predicted a Spark, I guess.
Yeah,
But I will say they did, had pretty rough matches behind them. So maybe, they're getting a bit, it looked pretty poor because of that. Maybe they're going up against the Hunters. Maybe they have more of a chance. So we'll see what happens. But I still think the Hangzhou Spark is
I
really
just
good
spun a
assets.
wheel. That's what this game is. It's just spin a fucking wheel, flip a coin, whatever you want, come up with a scoreline. There you go, easy clap.
The good old reliable. I actually do think if you made like a weighted spinning wheel, like it wouldn't be too bad,
A
Yeah.
weighted spinning wheel.
Yeah,
How
so
was
like
that?
you would,
Like-
so if you have like 5 slots, you would make 3 Hangzhou and 2 Chengdu, because then it's 60 versus 40, and you spin it. It's not 50-50. feel like that kind of would work sometimes, you know. Anyway, yeah, crazy ideas.
Also,
Next
I'm
up,
not aligned.
we got
by
the
way.
Vancouver Titans against the Washington Justice. Let's just move on. Here we go. This one. Okay. I feel like we're all collectively tired of the Washington Justice, and it's resulting in us predicting the Vancouver Titans. Wow.
Yes. Although the problem is Decay might slap. That's the only problem.
No. Hey, did you see a spy? Okay, let me actually give some Vancouver hope.
Slaps, though.
This is not just pure Washington hatred. There's actually some hopium for for Vancouver Titans. Vancouver have looked very good, and you need to give credit to Deepe and just the structure that they've finally put it together. Aztec, really good Zenyatta. Wow, who would have thought if you just put him on his best hero, he would play really well. Spire's playing Tracer. Shockwave's being given the keys to the car, being able to play the hit scan. They look really good. Mirror on that Doomfist has his moments. Like, I actually think Vancouver would have won the games earlier in this stage if they just had an easier schedule. Like, the August 14th curse is actually hurting them right now. Like, let me tell you their last 5 games in which we've said that they've been looking better. Gladiators, Houston Outlaws, Atlanta Reign, Dallas Fuel, San Francisco Shock. Those have been their last 5 matches. That has to be one of the hardest 5-match runs that you could have in this league. And
Let me give you another stat, Custa. In their last 10 matches, they've won 3 maps.
Yeah, but they've been close maps. There's been so much closeness, which is a very tangible. Am I selling any? How are you feeling about this, AVRL? Have I convinced you on the Vancouver Titans?
I don't need convincing. I think Vancouver are looking good. They are looking much better. I just don't know if they're going to get their win this stage just yet. I'm also because I'm not a part of the NA broadcast. I haven't personally been burned by Washington. I'm currently a Washington apologist who's about to get burned. Maybe I think this is one that could come back and bite me back for sure. But
this could be an entertainment thievery match.
I think the highs of Washington are still currently higher than Vancouver, and Vancouver also are currently, if I'm not mistaken, are they a Doom one-trick team? Like Mirror only comes in, he just plays all the time. He only plays Doom, right? So
except for like Circuit, I think False.
Do they play any False at all? Does
False
False ever play or no?
Yeah, to play some Sigma here and there.
Okay. So
I gave up on the False Winston.
I have slightly more rope still to give Washington than everybody else because I've experienced less of the burning that everyone else has had.
Yeah, I actually do think that. I mean, Washington is probably like the most reasonable pick, but I'm just so tired of rooting for the Washington Justice that at this point, I just it's way comfier to just lose a pred rooting for the Titans, even if it's like an 0-3.
Also, with me and AVRL being opposite again, this is looking good for the guest pred because one of us is going to maintain. It's going to maintain that percentage
at minimum. Yeah.
Yes, of course. Wow, that's actually so big brain. Meanwhile, we're just losing press over predicting the Vancouver Titans. I actually do think there's going to be I'm actually incredibly excited about Vancouver Titans versus Washington Justice. I think imagine just the repercussions if Washington or if Vancouver wins that match. Reddit, Twitter, the broadcast, everything's going to be absolutely fucking bonkers.
It's going to be a great time.
Should I give this one to the viewers this week? For the community post?
Yes,
absolutely.
You should.
This is a great viewer one.
This is the viewer. I
was thinking maybe Dallas, London, but I think this one's probably juicier.
This one's
they're both good.
Yeah, they're both good, but I like this one more. This one's memeier,
Yeah, absolutely. Moving on to the next one.
Even if Vancouver don't win here, I think their next stage is fantastic. Everything London did this stage is what Vancouver's doing next stage.
Yeah, but at the same time, it would be like beating the Washington Justice. They're not out of the rut yet, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So it would mean something different than beating Paris Eternal on August 14th, because I think that's the one everyone's looking at. Anyway, let's move on. We got the Houston Outlaws taking on the Boston Uprising. Don't think we're gonna see any big surprises here, but I wrote this down because I figured we'd give Boston Uprising a bit of a shout here. They did go to map 5 against the Florida Mayhem. Houston Outlaws is a bit of a different beast, but we already talked about their roster. I think this one could still be close.
I put a 3-2 for this one for me personally in favor of the Outlaws. This is definitely going to be close, man. This may be a potential banger series.
When you said Houston versus Boston, I had this awful moment of oh my god, did I predict the Boston Uprising last night when I was just no. I'm starting to question everything I would have put. But yeah, I think Houston's the safe bet. Boston, I'm a little worried that people are giving Boston a lot of hopium when I'm not sure if it's like perfectly justified. Like they're definitely not the bottom and they're not awful, but like I don't think they're going to take down a top 6 team anytime soon, like the Houston Outlaws.
All right. Yeah, I mean, I think that's pretty fair. And I'm also like a bit personally offended because I am one of those who gives love to the Boston Uprising. So I got tagged in that regard. Yeah.
Oh, I know.
I still think that's an interesting prediction nonetheless, because I could just see like, you know, there's always that 10% chance that Houston Outlaws, you know, just fumble the ball and Boston Uprising wins. But, you know, it's good predictions to have there. Next up, we got the Dallas Fuel taking on London Spitfire. Another big match. Oh, Average closing his eyes.
Oh,
okay.
Baby.
2 Dallas, 2 London.
Let's go. Guest win percentage.
Guys, you fucked up. You're supposed to go 50-50.
No, yeah, we did kind of mess up there. Whoops. But look, listen, I'm still a Dallas Fuel simp. Okay. No matter what Reddit says, apparently me and Mitch hate the Dallas Fuel and wish the org never existed, according to Twitter. Which is but no, look, at the end of the day, I still have a lot of faith in this roster, and I still think, although they can't beat the mirror, they can play some more fearless on the Winston, go for the fucking dive, and just slap London around just a little bit. London will look sick, yeah, don't get me wrong. I still have faith in Dallas, even though I would honestly right now put London above them in the power rankings. Gonna be real, like I said earlier, I said I'd put them 4th under the Atlanta Reign, but hey, a boy can fucking dream. Will be a close game.
So no, you go, Apple.
I still have a lot of rope for Dallas here as well. I don't look at that NYXL game with like too much doomium and be like, oh no, this Dallas is done. I think like, okay, that went way too close. They struggled way too much in that matchup, but I still have enough faith in Dallas to be a good enough team to come back with a short break, come to the Dallas game and look good versus the London game, look good versus them. Especially when you look at London as well, you know exactly what they're going to do. They're a team that they're not hiding a lot. You know what strategies they bring to the table. You know what they're going to play on what map. Rush is very experienced as a coach. The entire team, minus a few rookies, are very, very experienced. They know how to play up against Rush. They know the matchups. I think the veterancy on the Dallas Fuel should carry them through. And, you know, I don't buy into the doomium of the NYXL game too much.
Yeah, I agree with pretty much everything Avril said, but I was hanging out with Jack and Mitch behind closed doors, and they were talking to me about how bad Dallas Fuel is, and they were like, "Yo, Moira is such a useless hero. They're so bad at it. Fearless is washed, all that kind of stuff. Kurio's the worst hit scan player in the league." Like they were saying all these crazy things, and it must just be bleeding into my brain. But yeah, no, like I'm just not sold on Dallas. I just don't really love the way that they're playing the game right now. I don't. They're still playing like a lot of this like dive Moira just doesn't fill me with any confidence. And the fact that, yes, obviously they beat New York Excelsior playing really well. I think for me, it just highlighted a couple of their like, just doesn't feel good. I just don't look at them and be like, this is the Dallas Fuel that I know and love. Yes, they have that veterancy. Yes, they have that experience. And I trust Rush, just like Avril said, but I'm on the London train. Like, I really like the way that London is playing the game. Yes, they could easily just end up getting outskilled by the Dallas Fuel, but from the most recent matches, I have more faith that London know what they're doing and are going to be comfortable to play their own game than Dallas. If I think something starts going wrong for Dallas, if Dallas loses this first map, second map, and they don't have a great answer to London, I think it'll fall apart for them. So, yeah, that's why I went for London. But it's going to be close, as Jack said.
Yeah, that's kind of why I sided with London Spitfire as well. Like, I just don't love the Dallas Fuel right now. There was a lot of like Lucio Moira and stuff like that against New York Excelsior, and they did find some success with it. But overall, I do think this is a bit of a 50-50 until Dallas Fuel like find their groove. If you want to compare it to like the Shanghai Dragons, it was a bit of a return to form for both teams, because Shanghai Dragons, they're like, we're gonna play Wrecking Ball and we're gonna play Briggs and Yara, and it's like this is what we did in 2021. Dallas Fuel, on the other hand, they're like, we're going to do what we did in 2021, which was play Lucio Moira with like Winston and rush it down mid.
Old reliable.
Old reliable. Just not as, you know, it's not as meta as it was last year. So interesting nonetheless. I don't really know how like they'll counter this London Spitfire team, how they deal with the brawl. But AVRL has faith that it's going to happen. So we'll see. I think it's a bit of a 50-50, and I think London Spitfire is the more fun pick. So there you go. One more. We got the New York Excelsior, looking a bit refreshed perhaps, taking on the Boston Uprising. the last one, and we're all going with Boston, which I did not expect because the New York Excelsior did actually look better, like objectively, in that Dallas Fuel match.
Hey, here's my point of why I didn't go for New York. That was great performance. I don't think anyone can knock that performance of New York Excelsior. They just played well. They were a good team. They were playing as a hive mind. They were playing to their strengths. But Yaki and Gangnam Jin played exceptional. Like the best we've seen from them in about a year. Can they just keep having those same level of performances? I don't know. I'd rather just gamble that Boston is going to play their game and just be better than New York than just assuming Yaki's going to come out and just go absolutely mental. What Yaki did on Genji was probably some of the best Genji we've seen this season. I don't know if he's going to be able to emulate that again and just have that same level of performance.
I also think New York is starting to look a little bit like a one-trick team on the Doom as well, and they're playing a lot of Echo. You mentioned the Genji, but I also look at Valentine, who's extremely solid. Boston's previous 2 games, even though they lost versus Mayhem, and we can meme about the reverse sweep, but the areas that Boston looked good in, I was really convinced by. So like I'm happy to back Boston here. I think New York looked good recently, but for the same reason why I went for Dallas versus London, you know, that one performance from New York doesn't fully convince me just yet.
Interesting, because I actually feel like I almost want to break the New York Excelsior. Like I'm bought into the Yaki Genji now and the Kellan mid Doomfist performance.
The Kellan mid Doomfist.
Gangnam Jin, Senyara. Like I thought they looked kind of clean. Like they looked like a respectable team. You know what I mean? It was like I understand that Yaki like carried that team so hard on that Genji, but it still felt like a team that played like respectable level of Overwatch when it came to like the limits and how far you go, ultimate rotations. It felt like they were just not like scrambling and there was individual pop-offs, because we've seen plenty of teams so far that they win a few maps. You know, Toronto Defiant is one of those teams where Hisu has popped off certain maps and just like carried them across the finish line. And I'm not buying into the hype because I understand that they won because Hisu just popped off and hit shots essentially. And that's not like reliable Overwatch. You're not giving yourself the best chance to win by playing like that. And, you know, you could argue that Yaki did something similar on Genji, but I kind of liked the rest of what I saw from the team as well. Like they looked like a complete team in that regard. So I actually value the New York Excelsior a bit higher, more than, you know, certainly some of the other lower end teams like Vancouver Titans, Paris Eternal, etc. And, you know, maybe even the Boston Uprising. Maybe I'll go for New York on the broadcast and I'll do the classical 50-50.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you can win. Yeah, you cannot lose.
No, I cannot lose. And then I just take either clip and post on social media. I feel like I won.
That's good. I really like
I was right the entire way through. All right, there you have it for this Plat Chat Overwatch episode 136. We only have Bren's Player of the Week left. And I guess it's up to me then. I have been in contact with Brennan Hook via fax. He sent me over a message this morning. I had to print it out. I had to go buy new paper at FedEx. It was a good old time. And he printed out a paper that it read Lastro. So we're giving Lastro Bren's Player of the Week this weekend for surviving on the Lucio and making the top 3 C9 happen. I think we can all universally agree that Lastro is a pretty good choice for this week.
Yeah, just for that boostio. Hell yeah.
Just for that boostio. And I think that...
Where's Eris's credit?
What?
What did Eris do? He just pressed Q
one
time.
Yeah.
That was
a very
ridiculous.
difficult Q press, huh? That was a very difficult choice for him to make. Do I nano nobody or nano Lastro?
Do I nano myself?
Yeah, dude, if he could... Let's be honest. If Eris could nano himself, he would have nanoed himself.
You would do that every time. Don't worry, guys.
He'd be like, oh, we lost the game anyway, guys. I'm just nodding myself here. I'll pop off, guys. Yeah. No, I think this is not the first time that Lastro won it either. I think we probably gave it to him for the big dick comment. And that was certainly a big dick moment.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's the BD, the big dick experience for you.
Every year.
Yeah.
2-time.
Yeah. If you tally it up, I think they're climbing the rankings. They're climbing the rankings of the Player of the Week leaderboard. So, good job, Lastro. There you go. That's it for the episode. No more topics. I don't think anyone else has anything to say. So, you know, pretty good week overall. Thank you for watching Plat Chat episode 136. We'll see you guys next week for more Overwatch news and ridiculous comments and horrible threads. Anyway, bye.